Marvel. The devastation of natural disasters begins. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 176 Resurrection. Everyone, whether it's the mutant side, the Wakanda side, or the Avengers. Tang Feng communicated what he said to everyone through the spiritual connection, spoke slowly, looked at Carol, turned around with a smile, and continued, "Everyone listen to me carefully. From now on, I announce to you, the war is over. Then, my military training plan is over. The dead will also be resurrected." After finishing speaking, Tang Feng opened his empty hand, and the time that had been stored in it quickly dissipated, like 100 birds returning to their nests and rejoining their respective masters. The natural disaster was chaotic for a while. Since the beginning of the war, Tang Feng has been maintaining the power to use time, which was why he made an agreement with Carol and never thought of fighting with Carol. At that time, the enemy could not distract him. Moreover, Tang Feng's use of time confusion this time is to form a time field, which cuts off everyone's time for a while. That intercepted time period is the best state, so that everyone is free from injuries, incidents, and deaths. When Tang Feng sent the intercepted time period 09 back to everyone, only to see that everyone who was still alive, when Tang Feng's strange words, felt that their bodies seemed to merge into something, and there was a sense of loss. The precious things have returned again. If it is a person who has not suffered any injuries, they will feel tired and exhausted, and return to the best state. If they are injured, they will be surprised to see that the injury disappears in the blink of an eye, as if they had never been injured, and their physical strength has recovered. The Wakanda side was no exception. Whether it was soldiers or civilians far away in the capital, the pain in their brains was healed, and the injured soldiers returned to normal. Those who were disabled due to the tragic slaughter, and their limbs that were severed, also recovered in the blink of an eye, as if they had never lost it. When a person is shocked by the changes in his body, he sees the corpses lying on the ground, then moves around, recovers the fatal wounds on his body, and is resurrected. Really resurrected. A mutant, who was clearly pierced in the heart, stood up blankly, and his body returned to its original state. He kept touching his body, but he didn't feel any injuries at all. His consciousness was still at the moment of death. The horror of death made him shudder and suddenly wake up. Am I not dead? Resurrected? Questions appeared, and the resurrected people spoke in surprise, and Mutant looked at his comrades with ecstasy and surprise. There is also a mutant who looked at the warriors of Wakanda, even if they were hostile before their death. Now because of the miracle of resurrection, they are not in the mood to fight. Therefore, even if the warriors of Mutant and Wakanda mixed together, they coexisted surprisingly in harmony. They cried out in surprise and roared together. What a miracle! They were dead and never expected to come back to life. What kind of existence is Tang Feng? He can even do resurrection. Is he a god? Captain, Captain, Captain. At the same time, the resurrected Hawkeye, shouting on the battlefield, seeks to captain them. We are here. The captain and Black Widow heard it and responded loudly at the same time. Both of them simply sat down, smiled at each other, and hugged each other tightly. He is not dead, which is good. Hawkeye searched for it, and through the numerous figures, he soon saw the figures of the two of them, and quickly ran over, excitedly, with a smile on the corner of his mouth. The captain looked at Hawkeye, smiled radiantly, and opened a hand. Black Widow looked at Hawkeye and also stretched out a hand. Hawkeye walked over, squatted down, opened his hands, and pounced, throwing the two of them to the ground. Resurrection, resurrection, we're all resurrected. Hawkeye hugged them tightly as he raised his head and shouted, "Ha ha ha, yeah, we died and came back to life." The captain also hugged the two of them tightly and responded with a laugh. The Black Widow laughed and wiped away her tears. She was so happy and excited. "Oh, by the way, where's Tony?" After a while, the three of them excited people finally separated and all stood up. Then the captain finally remembered that one person was still missing. He looked up and asked, "I didn't see him when I came. and I don't know where he is now." Hawkeye shook his head. "When Tony died, he was a little far away from us, and there were so many people on the battlefield. It must have been somewhere," the Black Widow guessed. Tony was indeed resurrected somewhere. Coincidentally, not far from his resurrection, the Queen of Darkness was also resurrected here. The bodies of the two who were blown up were restored to their original state, and not a single strand of hair was missing. What do you want to do? Don't waste time, now that the war is over. You look around, not everyone is fighting, so you can't do it." Tony stepped back in a panic and said to the Black Queen, who was coming step by step, although he was resurrected, only his body was recovered, the steel battlesuit was still destroyed, and he is now an ordinary middle-aged man. It is worth mentioning that only the body is resurrected, and if the clothes are blown up, it will not be restored. So when Tony woke up, his entire body was naked, but fortunately there were some remains beside him, barely covering the key places. The same goes for the Black Queen. When she woke up at the same time, she immediately noticed the situation and used a kind of magic. The black and dark magic power formed a curtain and enveloped her body. It seemed that she was wearing a long black dress without chains, and it looked like a piece of raw cloth, because her clothing change was very fast and she didn't see anything. In fact, everyone was shocked and applauded by Raw because of the resurrection, so they could pay attention to it when they had time. Who said the war was over? The war between us is not over yet. The Black Queen looked at Tony with an angry look. She was now an Avenger. The thought of being dragged to death by Tony made her lungs explode. She had never suffered such a loss and killed her, if she hadn't been resurrected. Thinking of the bad feeling of death, it was no exception. She couldn't help but tremble, and then looked at Tony stubbornly, condensing her magic power to kill. Tony is desperate. If God wants to play with him like this, if he knew he could be resurrected, he wouldn't die with the Black Queen. Okay, now, after the Black Queen is resurrected, she will kill him. Do you have to die again? After the dark, the war is over, and my military training plan is over, so don't kill people. There is no need anymore. Just as the Black Queen was about to make a move, Tang Feng flew down from the air and landed beside her. "Are you really unable to kill?" the Black Queen asked unwillingly. "It's better not to kill him. The crisis of annihilating the Zerg still needs his help. If you are unhappy, you can whip him, as long as you don't kill him." Tang Feng touched his chin with one hand and smiled at Tony. Tony was about to show the smile of the rest of his life, but immediately stiffened, looking at Tang Feng's smile, like a devil's smile. "That's fine too." The Black Queen nodded, agreed, and used magic to create a whip, which was definitely more painful than a normal whip. Chapter 177 Tony's Eternal Stain. The photo has been saved. The screams spread throughout the battlefield, causing people to tremble. Those who heard it were sad, and those who saw it cried. Although Tony was whipped, the way he was beaten, the mutants or Wakandan warriors around were curious and wanted to get close to the crowd. After all, it is rare for a worthy Iron Man to be whipped. However, seeing that Tang Feng was also there, no one dared to approach the crowd, only daring to watch from a distance and talk to others in a low voice. Until now, there are still shocking expressions on their faces: recovery of physical strength, injuries, recovery of crippled bodies, and resurrection like a miracle. All of these things shocked everyone. Looking into Tang Feng's eyes was like looking at a real god. Only God can do this, reverse life and death, and resurrect the dead. This kind of thing is so crazy that no one would believe it if they hadn't experienced it firsthand. For Tony, a genius who only believes in technology, it also subverts the three views on resurrection. If it weren't for being whipped by the Black Queen just now, and the pain all over his body was terrifying, perhaps he couldn't suppress his curiosity and would ask Tang Feng about the means of resurrection, trying to find out if there was any role in technology. Now, he no longer thinks about anything, and screams constantly after being hacked, rolling on the ground non-stop. Okay. 35 Tang Feng watched the Black Queen fight more and more vigorously, with that excited look, face flushed, holding a whip, plus being originally the Black Queen. There is a kind of aloof temperament. In a trance, He saw a scene where a queen was whipping. With a chill, he quickly stopped this thought, and also stopped the Black Queen. He was afraid that if this continued, he didn't know if Tony would be beaten to death, and he was afraid that the queen would awaken some strange hobby because of it, and it would be bad if she wanted to try it with him. Okay, it's also great, so I will spare his life. The Black Queen scattered the magic whip, although she still wanted to fight, but Tang Feng spoke. When leaving, a man's face must be given. Wait until the night. After thinking about it, he also remembered the matter of death. Although he resurrected Tang Feng, he still felt resentment, holding his hand and said resentfully, "Should you give me the matter of my death, an explanation? If you play a game with me tonight, I will forgive you." Hearing this, Tang Feng panicked, sweating profusely and coughed a few times, saying, "You misunderstood. In fact, at the beginning, everything was under my control." 35 Look, the effects of training is very good. Not only have you experienced the brutal battlefield, the torn between life and death, but in the end, nothing happened. Only I can achieve this kind of effect through training. Tang Feng said. After seeing the darkness, he still looked at him resentfully, only felt his scalp numb, and laughed a few times. It seems that something is really wrong. It seems that the Black Queen's grievance will not be calmed down so easily. Do you really want to agree to play with her? No, I can't. Tang Feng secretly swallowed. His heart was beating. The ghost knew whether the game he wanted to play was the same as he thought. He doesn't do that kind of thing. Thinking about it, I shuddered when I saw that Tony was covered in welts and looked miserable. It's okay, so many people are watching. What's there to go back and talk about? In order to appease the Black Queen, Tang Feng had no choice but to give a reassuring bite on the spot. After a while, the two of them separated. The Black Queen's face finally improved. Her eyes were no longer so resentful. She lifted her hair with one hand, turned around and said, "Blink, take me back to Atlantis first." It turned out that when the two of them kissed me, Flicker also came, but they didn't rush to bother me. The Black Queen had to return to Atlantis because it was very inconvenient to keep a long magic dress. Anyway, the war is over, and Tang Feng is going to take over next, so he doesn't need his power anymore. I'm sorry, in order to maximize the effect of the training, I've been hiding it from you. Tang Feng hugged Blink forward and said apologetically. Flicker first buried his head in Tang Feng's arms, hugged him tightly, and then pushed him away, humming, "No matter how right you are, I won't forgive you easily. I'll settle the account with you tonight." After he finished speaking, he opened the space channel and left with the Black Queen. What a huge resentment. Tang Feng touched his nose with a wry smile. Blink was like this, and Kin probably thought the same. Maybe even Linger would rarely complain about him. There are some worries tonight, and I don't know how long it will take to calm down her grievances. As for the White Queen, like the Black Queen, she is just a friend of weapons, and there are some differences with Linger's three daughters. So it is better to coax them, not once, but several more times, to make them give up physically and mentally. Tang Feng thought about it, looked at Tony again, and couldn't help but smash his mouth. He was so miserable, so pitiful. He kicked his body at will and said, "Don't pretend to be dead, get up, I have something to tell you." Tony was pretending to be dead, pretending not to listen, and whipping the Black Queen in public. It was too embarrassing for him. "Get up quickly, listen to it, and then pretend to be dead, and I will continue to whip you with the whip." Tang Feng saw that Tony was still pretending to be dead and threatened. "No, no, no, I'm awake. Tell me, what's wrong?" Tony hurriedly shouted and got up from the ground, pulling the loose rags to cover the important places more tightly, and said in a panic. Tang Feng looked at Tony and couldn't help but laugh. The embarrassed appearance of being domestically abused was really funny, especially since this person was Iron Man Tony. This is a rare event in the world and must be remembered. He pulled out. He turned his phone silent, tapped the screen, turned it on, tapped the photo, aimed at Tony, and pressed the capture button. There was a sound of gunshots and the flash made Tony close his eyes slightly, his face stunned, and he didn't respond for a while. "What were you filming just now? Come on, delete what you photographed." When Tony saw Tang Feng retracting the phone, He finally reacted and hurriedly shouted, "It's impossible to delete it, unless you called me and took the phone," Tang Feng said with a smile. Tony's tone choked, desperate. How could he beat Tang Feng, then? This stain on him will remain forever. My God, this kind of thing is horrible. Chapter 178 Tony's hard-working boy. That's how things are. What's wrong? Do you agree? Tang Feng held Yu Hung with both hands and asked Tony. Okay, I promise you. As long as you don't upload the photos you just took to the internet. Tony nodded with a sullen face. His face was ugly as if he had eaten shit. He was helpless and had to agree. That's it. The two of them agreed on a deal. Tang Feng promised Tony that he would not upload the photo to the internet casually, and as a condition, Tony would work for him for a period of time. The timing is, 3 days later is when Tony will go to Atlantis to work until the Zerg annihilation crisis is over. Alright, that's it. You made a wise decision. I suggest you find a place to hide now and get another set of clothes to cover your whipped body. Tang Feng patted Tony on the shoulder with one hand, waved his hand playfully, and kindly reminded, "If I heard right, Captain and the others will come here." Oh, damn it, why didn't you say it earlier? Tony jumped up and down in a panic, thinking of this. He would let the captain know that he would definitely be laughed at and that he would never be able to raise his head for the rest of his life. He hurriedly ran away. Wait, you're running in the opposite direction. It's better to run this way. Tang Feng hurriedly stopped Tony, looked at his doubtful eyes, shrugged, and pointed his finger in the opposite direction. Thank you. Tony was grateful, hurriedly followed the direction Tang Feng pointed, and ran out quickly. The world is really wonderful. One moment he was an enemy, the next moment Tony thanked Tang Feng. Tang Feng has been amusedly watching Tony run away, and then watching the people around him in the distance, silently using natural disasters and the collapse of order to reverse reality, so that everyone forgets that Tony was whipped. In this way, only Tang Feng and the Black Queen know about Tony's stain on life. In the future, if you want to ask Tony to do something, you can use the photo ID to call him at will. The roar comes and goes. Tang Feng thought, the corners of his mouth involuntarily raised, and he was in a very good mood. At this moment, the captain, Black Widow, and Hawkeye came here. Seeing Tang Feng, he couldn't help but get nervous, and subconsciously put on a defensive posture. Don't worry. Everyone said that the training operation is over and we don't need to fight again. Also, in front of me, you have no strength to resist, and you can't beat me no matter what, Tang Feng said. He walked past the three of them, and when he came to Black Widow's side, he raised his eyebrows and deliberately provoked, "It's a pity that a beautiful woman like you follows them. You can't even protect yourself. Such a man is useless. How about doing things with me? I can definitely protect you." The captain and Hawkeye were very angry and aggrieved. Although Tang Feng said it was ugly, it was also true. No matter how strong you are, I will only choose them and will never follow you, a hateful bastard. The Black Widow tilted her head to look at the captain, Hawkeye, and then looked at Tang Feng firmly, saying word by word, "Don't talk too much. No one thinks about what will happen in the future. Maybe one day, your mind will change." Tang Feng smiled and ascended into the sky, leaving behind a sentence that made people very worried. The three of them frowned, knowing that Tang Feng could use the power of time to allow Tony to see his own future, so he created a steel battlesuit in advance. So, he said those words after seeing Black Widow's future. Black Widow's heart was disturbed, and she wanted to ask whether Tang Feng's words were true or false. Unfortunately, she can't fly. Okay, the Resurrection Carnival can end. From now on, everyone will follow my orders. My army, line up on my left. On the Wakanda side, line up on my right. I'll only give you 10 minutes. It's best not to make me wait even a second longer. Tang Feng, who rose into the sky, took a deep breath. Instead of asking Keen to use his spiritual power to speak, he used sound magic to spread the words far away for everyone to hear. With Tang Feng's words echoing through the sky, the previously noisy battlefield suddenly fell silent. Everyone looked at each other. Firstly, there was the mutant side. No one hesitated and rushed to Tang Feng's left. Listen to him and gather the warriors. On the Wakanda side, all the surrounding warriors looked at the old king, waiting for his decision. He didn't hesitate for long, and soon, Ajit made up his mind and took the lead to Tang Feng's right. After experiencing defeat and resurrection, the old king was too afraid to resist Tang Feng's supreme power. For the survival of Wakanda, he already had the answer in his heart: unconditional surrender. Next, everyone on the battlefield seemed to be driven by ghosts to reincarnate. Mutant and Wakanda separated and lined up on the left and right of Tang Feng. Also affected by the power of time, Charles, who had recovered, and Qin, Linger and others came up and stood in front of the team. In addition, the people who Flicker had taken out of the battlefield for a long time were also brought back to her. After Tang Feng dispersed the intercepted time, even if someone was far away in Atlantis, but the time that belongs to them, no matter how far away, will still return to their respective masters autonomously. So, Magneto is awake and his injuries have recovered. Mystique, Angel and others have also recovered. These people walked out of the space channel and returned to the battlefield, only to feel very excited, and the world is impermanent. The tragic war before seemed to have never happened, and the people who died in the war seemed to have never died. If you didn't see the tragic traces left on the battlefield and the traces of the people around you who were torn apart and killed, you might really think that there was no war. Everything seems to be an illusion. All of this was caused by Tang Feng. He is like a god who looks down on all things, controls everything, and decides who he wants to live and who to die. Under the last dim light of the setting sun, Tang Feng was suspended in the air, and under the sky that was about to fall, he revealed a mysterious and unpredictable temperament, which made people feel astonished. Damn bastard, and don't get me back. Since time didn't save me, she really looked at me and wasn't afraid that she would really die. Carol lay on her back on the previous hillside, weakly cursing Tang Feng, her injuries not recovering at all. Because Tang Feng was afraid that Carol would notice, he didn't spare her time, so her injury remained the same and she didn't recover at all. Because Carol really has a 5th level power, not a 4th level one, but the ability to resist her time power. As for Qin and Wanda, they only have this potential and haven't mastered their own power, so they can't resist, and they don't realize that the power of time has been acting on them. Because of this, Carol didn't receive any care from Tang Feng and could only stay here the whole time. As for the matter of her death, Tang Feng never cared. Even if you don't use the double star state, you still have level 5 power and won't die so easily. When he really reached a dead end, even if she insisted on not using the power of the double star state, as a survival instinct, the power in her body would be instinctively stimulated, protecting her and not letting her really die. The result was not wrong. No matter how seriously injured Carol was, she still did not die, just like a cockroach with tenacious vitality. Chapter 179 Surrender. Black Panther's Tears of Humiliation. 10 minutes later, Mutant and Wakanda lined up on the left and right, staring at Tang Feng, waiting for him to speak. The scene was like waiting for the leader to preach. This kind of thing. The Avengers are not involved, except for Hulk who was taken away. They have merged. Tony, I didn't expect you to be here too. 99 here on the hillside, the captain, Hawkeye and Black Widow just came to this side and noticed from a distance Tony, who was wrapped in a fur coat and wrapped his entire body tightly, and Carol who was lying on the ground. Yes, I passed by this side just now and found that Carol was lying here. Tony has been holding on to the fur coat with both hands, so that he would not reveal any gaps and reveal the secrets of his body. It was fortunate to say that, as soon as he left in a hurry, he found the animal skin coat left on the battlefield. It is estimated that a soldier in Wakanda forgot to pick it up. Or, I hate that the animal skin coat is too dirty and it is difficult to wash off the blood stains, so I don't want it. No matter what the reason was, Tony didn't think it was dirty. He treated the animal skin coat as a treasure, wrapped it around his body, and finally breathed a sigh of relief. Then, after walking happily for a while, he came to the hillside and noticed Carol lying dead. The captain, Black Widow, Hawkeye, met Tony and Carol, and they were all very happy. They first greeted Carol's injury with concern, and then looked at Tony strangely, which made Tony feel uneasy. He cares too much, and there is a ghost in his heart, so he is very sensitive to everyone's gazes. "Are you cold? So tight?" The Black Widow looked Tony up and down. The more he looked, the more suspicious he became, and asked tentatively, "Yes, the sun has set, the temperature at night has dropped, and the wind is blowing very cold." "Ha!" Squeak. Tony nodded affirmatively and pretended to sneeze. "It's not too cold, it's just that your body is too weak. Without a steel battle suit, you are an ordinary person. You have to exercise your body regularly and you should do less of those romantic things." The captain looked up at the dark night around him, felt the cool breeze, shook his head, and like an old man, preached to Tony, "I don't need you to teach me how to be a human being. I didn't inject any serum, my body is that of an ordinary person. It's you, with such a strong body and high buttocks in country M, you must be very attractive to women. If you envy my life, you can try it too." Tony raised his eyebrows and looked at the captain's buttocks, jokingly. The captain was stunned for a moment, and couldn't help but look at his buttocks. Is he really that tall? The Black Widow, Hawkeye, and Carol, who was lying on the corpse, all looked over involuntarily and nodded secretly. After Tony said this, they really realized that they were quite upright. At this moment, Tang Feng's voice came with the wind, interrupting their conversation, and everyone listened seriously. Tony secretly sighed in relief. Tang Feng's voice was really timely and saved him a life. "Very good. Everyone seems to be on time. The line is up in 10 minutes, and the same goes for the Wakanda side. I am very satisfied with your performance." Tang Feng looked down, and through the magic of sound, spread the words into the distance, and continued, "Now that night is approaching, I will keep the story short. First of all, my mutant army, today's training operation is a perfect ending. I believe that you have learned something more or less, and it can be regarded as a metamorphosis from recruits to soldiers. 99. Now I announce to you, congratulations, that from now on, everyone has graduated from the training camp." After Tang Feng finished speaking, he took the lead and clapped his hands. The recruits below were stunned for a moment, then reacted, applauding vigorously. Their expressions were very excited, and many people couldn't help but shed tears. Everyone has a slap in the face, and I don't know whether to say it or not. It is this graduation that is not easy. It is definitely a test of death. The Wakandan side, lined up on the opposite side, looked at the recruits with mixed emotions. All they worked hard, tried their best to resist the enemy. It turned out to be only for a group of recruits to participate in the graduation. Are they just a group of testers? So, it's your turn in Wakanda. Tang Feng stopped clapping and began to look at Wakanda, speaking slowly. Hearing Tang Feng continue to speak, all the mutants stopped applauding and fell silent, wondering what Tang Feng would do to Wakanda. 0. I believe that after today's war, you have also deeply learned that our Atlantis is stronger. Even if I don't fight, you have no chance of winning. If I do it myself, you will have no chance of winning. No one refuted Tang Feng's words. Tang Feng, it was an obvious fact. With the pride of a Wakandan warrior, he couldn't refute, so he could only listen silently. I won't say much about persuading me to surrender. I want all of your vibranium mines, advanced technology, and your battlefields. So, you are surrendering to me and serving me. Or, you still don't surrender, would rather be destroyed than resist to the end? These are the two options given by Tang Feng. Surrender is the way of life, and not surrendering is the way of death. Surrendering or not surrendering is an important matter that is difficult to decide. All the Wakandan warriors are silent, their faces are struggling, their hands are clenched into fists, and the suction of roar is aggravated, and it is as if a large stone is pressing on his heart, making people feel uneasy. The old king did not think much about it, and with a sigh, he stood up. "Father," T'Challa shouted behind Drawer, very reluctant, "I'm sorry, my son. For Wakanda, I can only go against the will of the leopard god and bow to the strong. I am a staunch king, and in the future of Wakanda depends on you." The old king did not turn his head, finished speaking with an old and tired voice, walked out, looked at Tang Feng, knelt down and bowed to him. "In the name of Wakanda, I am willing to surrender to you." This sentence, under the old king's hoarse shout, also spread far, far away. Behind the old king, the warriors of Wakanda also held back their humiliation and knelt down together and shouted surrender to Tang Feng. T'Challa was no exception. He shouted and bowed his head, shedding tears of humiliation very reluctantly. It never occurred to him that one day he would surrender to a powerful enemy, all because Tang Feng is too strong and he is too weak. On the hillside, Tony and the others listened quietly, sighing, feeling very uncomfortable. They fought so hard and paid a life for it. They couldn't stop what Tang Feng wanted to do after all. Chapter 180 Tang Feng, who dares to show my face? Finally, Wakanda surrendered. All the goals were met, and Tang Feng was in no hurry to send troops. Instead, he led the army back to Atlantis, let them rest for a few days, adjusted their mentality, and eliminated the aftermath of the battle before officially leading the army to welcome Wakanda. A large number of portals seemed to be connected to the sky, and when the last mutant entered, the portal disappeared. For a moment, I thought it was full of people, and the crowded battlefield suddenly became very empty, and only more than 25,000 Wakandan soldiers were left on the scene. We should go back too, the old king said in a tired tone and walked away with a lonely back. His normally straight waist also curved slightly, and he looked like he was a few years old. T'Challa looked up at the sky, wiped his tears with his hands, and followed without a word. The soldiers, also silent, were in no mood to talk, and walked back to Wakanda, back to their homes, with a heavy 9-5-7 steps. Everyone is gone. We should go back to 9. Tony grabbed the fur coat with his hands and said. The captain and the others agreed and nod. Wakanda's surrender to Tang Feng is a foregone conclusion, and they have no ability to interfere, and they will blow the cold wind here if they don't leave. They sighed endlessly. Today's death experience is destined to make them unforgettable forever. The captain took out the raw communicator and called up the temporary headquarters, connected the Jarvis subsystem, sent out an unmanned fighter, and automatically headed over. In less than half an hour, the fighter plane arrived. The captain and Hawkeye carefully used a stretcher to carry Carol onto the fighter plane. Tony was in no mood to help, nor could he help, so he quickly walked towards the fighter plane. The Black Widow followed suspiciously, seeing that the fighter plane was also equipped with a steel battlesuit. Tony quickly put on the battlesuit. That kind of speed, he seemed impatient, as if facing the enemy. You put on the battlesuit. Don't you throw away that dirty fur coat first? The Black Widow chose a seat and asked strangely as she sat down. I can't help it. Throw away the fur coat. I can only be naked. Wearing a battlesuit will make my body very uncomfortable. Tony hid in the battlesuit, and finally breathed a sigh of relief, not afraid of the secret of his body being discovered. Jarvis, it's good to see you again. Now help me navigate, step on the accelerator, and let me return in the shortest time, Tony said to the battlesuit system. Okay, sir, Jarvis replied in the same tone as before. It is a subsystem and there is no record of it being destroyed at all. Okay, everyone, I'll go back first and take a step first. Tony turned around and made a move towards the captain and the others, roar, then flew out of the fighter plane, crashed, and returned as quickly as possible. He couldn't wait to go home immediately. Then throw away the dirty animal skin coat, then take a dozen baths, and then secretly buy medicine to heal all the welts on his body, leaving no trace at all. Why are you in such a hurry to go back? The captain muttered strangely. Maybe you were in a hurry to change your clothes, with your usual living habits. How could you endure such a dirty look now? Hawkeye guessed casually. I don't think so. If you have to change your clothes and take a shower, you can even take a shower here. 35 Black Widow pointed to the bathroom at the back of the fighter and the closet installed on the side. Her face was full of doubts. It's too suspicious. Tony wants to find excuses and find a reliable one. Has he forgotten? His fighters are as arrogant as he is and are designed to enjoy life. The captain, Black Widow and Hawkeye looked at each other in disbelief. Carol didn't pay attention to this, and was carried into the fighter plane, and finally couldn't hold it in any longer and fell into a deep sleep. Under the night, the flames sprayed by the steel battlesuit and fighter planes quickly disappeared. Director, the Avengers have returned safely. At a base, Hill hurried over and reported to Nick Fury excitedly. "Well, I see." Nick Fury turned his back to Hill and looked at the behemoth outside the window. Although his tone was calm, his trembling hands couldn't help but clearly show that he was nervous and excited. He was finally relieved to hear that Tony and the others had returned safely, and God knows how terrified he was to hear the news of total annihilation. Because they were facing Tang Feng, it's good for them to be safe. The time for the arrival of the Annihilation Zerg is approaching. We must hurry up and build it well to realize the idea of raising it for many years to come. Hill, let's bring everyone up to speed. Nick Fury patted the glass window with one hand, waiting for Zero. Everyone is already rushing to work hard. Do you still have to continue rushing? I'm afraid they will be exhausted. Hill hesitated. We won't exhaust ourselves. We are agents, the most elite agents in the world. And nothing can stumble us, not even an aircraft carrier. 55 Nick Fury firmly believes the giant outside the window is the aircraft carrier. In order to deal with the annihilation of the Zerg, Nick Fury will make it stronger, equip it with various powerful thermal weapons, and let it fly into the sky. The aircraft carrier was originally built when Avengers 1 happened, and now it is obviously going to be launched ahead of schedule. Under the crisis of the Zerg's annihilation, it is not just Tang Feng who is preparing. Anyone who is aware of it is making their own preparations. The pre-war atmosphere enveloped the world. Even ordinary people gradually noticed some bad situations from various speculations on the internet. Compared to the chaotic countries, Atlantis is as calm as ever. This is the country of mutants. The king is Tang Feng. The supreme force has suppressed all the chaos. No one dares to cause trouble in this country. Tang Feng was very worried. Although he had invincible power and suppressed everyone, he could not help Inger and the other daughters. They would not be afraid of Tang Feng. As soon as they returned to Atlantis, they had a stinky face. The three women returned to a room together and closed the door tightly. Tang Feng was dumbfounded. He had planned to persuade them about 4.7, but they did not give them any chance. Brother, don't think about doing this again. If there is no other way to make us happy this time, then we will not forgive you. You have gone too far this time. 35 Linger's words cheer or roaring came from inside. Keen and the flashing women also mean the same as Linger and insist on Tang Feng's sincere admission. You must know that in this war, I don't know how many acquaintances died. Even the Black Queen regrettably sacrificed herself. They all died of sadness and also complained about Tang Feng in their hearts. Even if Tang Feng resurrected the dead, they couldn't pretend that nothing happened. In short, deceiving their feelings, making them cry. Tang Feng committed a great crime, and they must be shown Tang Feng's attitude of sincere repentance. Chapter 181 The Conspiracy of Two Men. HMPH. Don't fool yourself, I won't forgive you easily. Me too. After a long time, the three of them separated, and both the Black Queen and the White Queen fell into a deep sleep with a satisfied look on their faces. As for the grievances against Tang Feng, they were all dispelled. Oh no, I probably don't remember how many times. In short, the two women's firm thoughts, just like the true law of fragrance, the words they swore before have all faded away. Tang Feng was not sleepy for a while, smoking a cigarette, standing on the balcony, looking at the beautiful night sky, the stars twinkling. The moon is very round, like the moon on August 16th. I have not forgotten that sentence in my previous life. The moon is 15 and the circle is 16. However, now he was not in the mood to appreciate such a beautiful scenery. He kept smoking, spitting, and his face was very gloomy. Linger, Kin, and Blinking, three girls, are really getting angry with him, and it is not easy to persuade them. The moves that can deal with the Black Queen and the White Queen are no longer effective for them. So what should be done? In this situation, it is a bit difficult to handle, so I can only ask someone for advice. 35 Tang Feng thought, already had a candidate in mind, opened the portal and walked in. On the other side of the portal, there is a bathroom. 09, the famous Iron Man Tony, a world-famous figure of the stray boy. Doesn't he like girls anymore? Is he just playing self-modeling? Excuse me, please continue. 35 Tang Feng held back his laughter, spoke calmly, turned around to open the door, walked out, and came to the hall, only to let out an uncontrollable laugh. Tony maintained an embarrassing posture, and when he heard Tang Feng's laughter, he reacted. He hurriedly washed his body with water and put on his clothes, shouting at Tang Feng, "What are you doing here suddenly at night?" Tang Feng calmly picked up a bottle of red wine from the shelf, flicked his thumb, popped the cork, poured half a glass of red wine, took a sip, and said leisurely, "I want to put the whip on my body." "Have all the marks been removed?" Tony was originally angry, but after hearing this unexpected remark, he immediately changed color, softened his face, and asked urgently, "Can you remove the welts on my body?" This was what he cared about the most, and he didn't even dare to hook up with girls until the welts were removed. Otherwise, after showing it to my sister, I definitely doubt that his hobby is masochistic. Could the dignified Iron Man be a masochist? The thought that this kind of gossip could spread, Tony must be going crazy. Therefore, he swore that if he didn't get rid of all the welt marks on his body, he would never hook up with a girl. The worst thing was that even if he secretly bought various therapeutic medicines, he really couldn't remove the welts. Because this kind of whip mark is removed by the Black Queen with magic power, and it is not something that can be cured and removed by ordinary medicine. Tony was feeling the darkness in his life, and when he was desperate, Tang Feng was like a ray of hope, breaking into his world and bringing hope. I don't even look at who I am, and even resurrection. The mere welt is definitely a small, very small thing. Tang Feng crossed Erlang's legs, sipping red wine, and said casually. Tony Roar sucked harder. He believed it without any doubt, looked at Tang Feng with very hot eyes, and said excitedly, "Quick, help me." If there were any unintentional outsiders right now, seeing Tony looking so horny, they might have mistaken him for a gay man, craving something. Tang Feng got goosebumps all over. He couldn't stand Tony like this. He quickly waved his hand and said, "You can help me. In return, you have to help me once." "No problem." Tony nodded and agreed without hesitation. Anyway, 3 days later, he would temporarily work for Tang Feng, and he would help Tang Feng in advance, and there was no problem at all. "Okay, you help me think of a way to coax them first, and then I will remove your welts." Tang Feng did not hesitate, drank the rest of the red wine, looked at Tony, and said, "They?" Tony blinked, puzzled. "Yes, they." Tang Feng nodded heavily. After a few minutes, "Ha ha ha, I didn't expect you to be stumped by women, just 3 women. It's too easy to convince. I can help you find a way to get them to do it in minutes." After hearing the cause and effect, Tony smoked a cigar, drank a sip of red wine, and laughed at Tang Feng's incompetence. Having suffered so many losses from Tang Feng, he finally felt a sense of superiority once. In terms of experience with women, he is the most famous playboy. He has so much experience that he is considered second, and no one dares to claim first. Laugh all you want, say what good ideas you have, and if your ideas don't work, hum, you'll just wait and never get rid of those welts. Tang Feng glanced at Tony sideways and hummed menacingly. Tony's face was dull. He didn't dare to laugh. If the welts could never be removed, that is to say, he wouldn't dare to pick up girls, he might as well die. Thinking of this terrible consequence, he became serious and thought of good ideas. After a while, he smiled confidently. "There are a lot of good ideas. I have so many good ideas. Listen, tomorrow you'll like this. Then put them that way. You can finally." As Tony said, he waved his hands, clasped his hands together, and said confidently, "Do as I say, and do it in minutes." Tang Feng looked at Tony suspiciously, half believing 957 suspiciously, frowned and said, "They are not such superficial women. Does your method really work?" "It definitely worked. I think you really don't understand women's hearts. No matter how they say they don't care on the surface, in fact, they are just duplicity. That kind of romance, that kind of comparison, who doesn't want it? Who doesn't? Believe me, there will be no women who don't care at all." Tony was like a lover at this moment, speaking openly and firmly convinced of his methods. Tang Feng nodded hesitantly. He didn't have a good idea anyway, so he just listened to what Tony said to do. "Okay, I'll do as you said tomorrow, and you will make preparations." I'm waiting for your good news. Tang Feng patted Tony on the shoulder and handed over the heavy responsibility. After speaking, he opened the portal and left. Tony looked puzzled. What was left for him to do? Wouldn't it be enough to think of an idea? Hey, wait, shit, he's really gone. Tony came back to his senses and hurriedly shouted to hold back, but Tang Feng was no longer in sight. He looked at the night without tears, and it would be dawn in a few hours. Do you want to stay up all night to help him prepare for Tang Feng? He was smoking a cigar. Depressed, in order to get rid of the hives, he had to do it. Chapter 182. The action battle begins. New City. At 6 o'clock in the morning, Tony was standing on the side of the road with a displeased face, smoking a cigar. The originally empty street had gradually become filled with people coming and going. After so many years, he finally saw what New City looked like at 2 or 3 in the morning. In this regard, he didn't feel nostalgic. Some are just unhappy, very angry. All of this was forced by Tang Feng. In order to remove the whip marks, he had to do things for him and help him please women. My goodness, the dignified Iron Man Tony never thought that there would be such a day. As a subordinate, helping the boss please women. What is this? Boss, everything is done. Tell me, wait a minute, am I going to pick up that world-class famous lady? Tony's chauffeur and bodyguard, Hogan, a fat man with a big belly, was wiping away sweat, his face tired, dark circles under his eyes, slow and listless. In order to do as Tony told him, he didn't sleep all night, and he was so busy that he almost thought he would die suddenly. Do you want to pick them up? Tony took a sip of his cigar, puffed up the clouds, leaned back in the sports car, and said expressionlessly, them? I didn't expect more than one. I'm your driver, so I'll definitely pick them up. Hogan's face was stunned for a moment. He didn't expect that Tony's goal was not just one, but this situation was not surprising. It was Tony's basic operation. He definitely nodded and said. He misunderstood, thinking that Tony didn't want to bother him anymore and wanted him to rest. After all, he hadn't slept all night. Well, it's Tang Linger, Kin-Gray and Clarice, blinking, who now live in the capital of Atlantis, Calamity City. The exact address is 1st Avenue, Tony said softly while smoking a cigar. Hogan quickly took out a small notebook and wrote it down. First, he wrote down the name. Why is it a bit familiar? Then he came to the mutant country of Atlantis, and he suddenly had a bad feeling. Then when he heard the detailed location, his face turned pale. What was going on? Is this the place he could go? He must go upright and return sideways. Boss, are you kidding me? Hogan's teeth, the clattering of his fingers was really frightened. His legs were shaking, and he asked with a sad face, these are for them, don't you think? Tony glanced at him and sighed. After hearing the affirmative words, Hogan was desperate. His back seemed to be pale, accompanied by sadness and music, and his life was gloomy. After a while, he saw that Tony was still smoking a cigar, the smoke obscuring his face, and he didn't know what to think, and he didn't speak again. In this way, he gritted his teeth, as if the strong man would never come back, and said tragically, well, I'll go pick them up now. 39 Boss, goodbye, I won't be by your side anymore. I can't protect you anymore, you have to do it. Idiot, let's go. Tony listened to Hogan's farewell as if explaining his last words, recovered, shook his head speechlessly, scolded, and sat in the driver's seat of the sports car first. Hogan was stunned and stood still, with a few black question marks popping out of his head. Why don't you get in quickly? Don't you want to sleep on the street? Tony yelled angrily. Oh. Hogan finally reacted and hurriedly sat in the passenger seat, fastened his seatbelt, and slowly asked, Boss, do you really need me to pick you up? Oh, my idiot driver, please stop asking. Don't you know who they are? Tony shook his head helplessly as he drove. Oh, I know. Tang Linger is the head of the interior of Atlantis, Kin-Gray is the deputy director of intelligence, and Clarice, Blink, is the minister of logistics. Hogan flipped through the small book immediately. As a competent driver and security guard, He knew that mutant was the enemy that Tony was going to deal with. He definitely had to remember all the mutant who might threaten Tony's safety. And then, you know who they are, then you should also know their relationship with Tang Feng. So why do you think I have the courage to invite them? Tony holds the steering wheel with his left hand and gestures with his right, with an incomprehensible expression, defeating Hogan's stupidity. Hogan fell silent and fell silent. He finally understood that he had misunderstood from the beginning. After a while, he asked hesitantly, "So, boss, those we prepared weren't prepared for them?" "Who said no? It's for them." Tony glanced at him, then explained, "However, the protagonist is not me. I think you should guess who it is." Hogan understood, opened his mouth slightly, and did not speak for a long while. He glanced at Tony from time to time, feeling like hell. This was the first time he saw Tony doing things for other people or doing things to please women. It was something Tony couldn't do when the sun rose in the west. Well, he really did it. So amazing, truly the king of Atlantis. In Hogan's heart at this moment, he was full of admiration for Tang Feng and was shocked. Only Tang Feng could let Tony do something like that. Tony didn't know what Hogan was thinking, and if he knew, he would definitely consider firing him. He drove the car and said, "Vertical bar by the way, you must remember to continue. Those preparations are for Tang Feng, and when Tang Feng appears with them, just wait for Tang Feng's orders to act." "I understand." Hogan quickly came back to his senses and said seriously, after making all the preparations and telling Hogan about it, Tony yawned a few times and went to sleep as soon as he returned to his residence. He wasn't worried at all, and when he woke up, he would hear good news. When Tang Feng pleases them, I can ask him to remove the whip marks on his body. Tony thought expectantly before falling asleep. Similar to Tony's idea, Tang Feng also rarely puts on a black suit. Looking very handsome, looking forward to today's results. With Tony's rich experience in love scenes, and I don't know how many girls he has dated, his method should not be a problem. Tang Feng looked at himself in front of the mirror, muttered, and cheered himself up. No way. Don't look at him hugging back and forth, showing off his love. In fact, he is really a newcomer when it comes to pleasing women. Linger. He is automatically delivered to the door after amnesia. Jean, guided by Dark Phoenix in the dark, made him easy to catch. Flickering did not let him chase her and eat her as it was natural. Not to mention the Black Queen and the White Queen, it is just a simple appointment. Therefore, in terms of women, Tang Feng, who has always been easygoing, really has no experience in pleasing women. Okay, the combat operation begins. Tang Feng took a deep breath, let out another sigh, opened the door and walked out, setting foot on the battlefield. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 183. It's cold? It's cold. In the middle of sleep, Tony woke Tang Feng up. In Tony's room, Tang Feng's face was pale. Seeing that, Tony kept rubbing his eyes and looked like he was going to fall asleep again at any moment. He laughed angrily and slapped him. With a snap, a crisp slap sounded. "Ah, it hurts. What are you doing?" Tony covered the slap print on his right face. Finally fully awake, not knowing what was going on, he cried out in confusion. Then, he looked at his watch and wanted to die. It was only 8 o'clock. Which meant that he had only slept for about 2 hours. No wonder he was so sleepy and wanted to go back to sleep. However, Tang Feng was not in the mood to let Tony sleep. "No, I want to kill you," Tang Feng said angrily, clenching his fists and making a creaking sound. "Wait, let's make it clear first. What's the situation? Aren't you supposed to be with them and act according to the plan?" Tony panicked when he saw that Tang Feng was about to hit someone. He stretched out a hand and turned his palm towards Tang Feng, making a parry action, and asked in a panic, "It's cold." Tang Feng retracted his hand, stared at Tony fiercely, and said through gritted teeth, "Cold?" Tony asked for confirmation. "It's cold." Tang Feng confirmed the answer. "Well, What does it mean to be cold? Is it cold? Or are the dishes I made for you cold or 960? Tony asked tanguledly. It turned out that he didn't know what it meant to be cold at all. Tang Feng's mouth twitched. So what was he talking to Tony about just now? His hands were itchy. He couldn't stand it anymore, and he didn't want to stand it anymore, so he wanted to slap Tony in the face. There was a cracking sound, accompanied by Tony's screams and begging for mercy. Stop fighting. Stop fighting. Ah, stop hitting my face. Hit me again and I will fight back. I gave up. I gave up. Don't fight anymore. I'll be cold if you fight again. 35 Tony was pressed to the ground by Tang Feng with a blue nose and swollen face, with a lifeless expression. When did his dignified Iron Man start not only doing things for Tang Feng, but also being bullied by him? It feels like life is dark. Do you know what it means to be cold? Tang Feng knocked Tony on the pig's head, still a little puzzled, patted him on the head with one hand and asked, I know. Tony quickly nodded, already understanding what he meant. HMPH, pack up and get out. Tang Feng snorted, clapped his hands, stood up, opened the door and walked into the hallway. Tony woke up sadly. His sleepwear, a jet, was in disarray, and he looked like he had been raped. 5 minutes later, Tony washed up and came out, covering his swollen face, hissing in pain, and carefully sat in front of Tang Feng. Why so long? Are you a woman? Tang Feng sat on the sofa with his feet on the low table, and said dissatisfiedly, this is the fastest I've ever been. Hey, it hurts. Tell me, how could I fail? Impossible. My way of picking up girls has never failed. When Tony was washing up, he had already guessed the cause and effect, and asked depressedly, I also want to know how it failed. According to the method you said. I took them out to breakfast first and hired the entire international hotel. After eating, I went shopping, bought things, and bought whatever was the most expensive. However, just after walking for a while, everyone rolled their eyes at me, changed their faces, and walked back unhappy. 99 The subsequent arrangements are completely useless. Tang Feng frowned, looked at Tony, and said, maybe it's your way of being. I've said it before, they are not such shallow women. I want to use the way of dealing with those women who worship gold to please them. It doesn't work at all. Maybe, I shouldn't have come to you. All those bullshit ideas. Tang Feng is an afterthought. After this failure, he felt that Tony was unreliable, wanted to leave, and never asked him for help. Huh? Wait, it's just a failure. It doesn't prove that I can't do anything. My idea is that if this set of plans fails, then I have many more plans. After the failure of this operation, I have a general understanding of their thoughts. You're right, they are not the kind of superficial women, so a different plan needs to be used. Tony panicked when he saw that Tang Feng was about to leave. Without Tang Feng's help, how would he remove the welts? His mind was spinning, and he quickly called for saving. This time, are you really sure? Tang Feng asked hesitantly. In fact, if he didn't ask Tony for help, he didn't know who to ask for help. He was a king, an invincible child of disaster. Scott and others were all acquaintances and his servants, so embarrassed to speak. Only Tony, he doesn't care. There is a photo threat in his hand, and there is a threat of force. He eats Tony, just like the big ape in the palm of Buddha's hand, can't turn the sky. Certainly, sure. However, nothing is absolutely 100%, so I can't guarantee it until I succeed. But don't worry, no matter how difficult they are, with my years of experience with girls, I will always come up with a good idea to help you. 39 Tony patted Yu Hung as a promise. He walked to the wine rack, took out a bottle of red wine, took out 2 more glasses, filled 1/3 of them, and handed 1 glass to Tang Feng. Trust me, I can definitely help you. Tony took a sip of the red wine first, maintaining the gesture of handing the glass with his right hand, and nodded again in the affirmative. Tang Feng raised his eyebrows, took the glass, touched his glass gently, and said, okay, I will trust you again. I am Iron Man Tony, trust me. That's right. Cheers to our friendship. Tony let out a loud roar and drank the remaining red wine in one gulp. Tang Feng shrugged, raised his head and drank, and finished. Okay, Let me know the situation before the next plan starts. Jarvis, construction has started, projecting the panorama of New York. Come here, come a little closer. Great, this is where you and them have breakfast. 55 Then, build me character models. Tell me, how was the whole breakfast process? What did they talk about? What did they look like? In the lobby, projections filled the entire space, presenting the real thing of the hotel, as well as the models of Tang Feng and the three girls. Tony stood beside the model, his elbow resting on the back of his left hand, touched his chin, and said to Tang Feng, "It's such that." Tang Feng nodded lightly and told about the breakfast one by one. Tony listened very seriously and nodded solemnly from time to time. The two of them were discussing very seriously. People who didn't know the situation, when they saw this scene, would think that they were discussing something important. Chapter 184 Is it true love? At noon, the whole morning passed. Tang Feng and Tony finally agreed on the next plan. This plan sounds feasible, much more reliable than the previous one. Tang Feng nodded in satisfaction, looked at Tony. His face was stunned. It turned out that he was already lying on the table and fell into a deep sleep. Roar purred loudly. It turns out that Iron Man also snores when he sleeps. Tang Feng joked and didn't care about Tony's sleepover. He also knew that he hadn't slept all night, and he only woke up after about 2 hours of sleep, and he had to spend his brain power to help him solve problems, think of a good idea, and be able to survive until now. For Tony, he has been as conscientious. Simply put, with a good plan, Tang Feng's mood is much better, and Tony is no longer embarrassed. Let him sleep. Dear Mr. Tang Feng, you are wrong. Tony never snores when he sleeps. He only snores when he is tired. 99 Jarvis explained in an unwavering tone. Oh, if this plan can help me get through smoothly, then I won't bother you today, Tang Feng said casually, not feeling embarrassed at all. When he thought about it, Tony was his hard-working boy. Any form of bullying, it's fine. Tang Feng left and let Tony sleep on the table like this, without thinking about taking care of him. He is a boss who only squeezes his employees. He is not a caring boss, and Tony is not a pretty girl. Fortunately, Tony also has a good housekeeper. Jarvis controls the steel battlesuit, picks up Tony and walks to the room. The steel battlesuit wears a princess hug, and the princess is Tony. This picture is too beautiful, but unfortunately Tang Feng has already left and I didn't see it. Sure enough, Jarvis and Tony are true loves. Tang Feng, who had left, returned to Atlantis and began to plan. The entire plan is divided into 3 stages. Each stage corresponds to a woman. This time the actions of the plan are carried out separately. Tony is worthy of being a prodigal son in love. Having learned the lessons of failure, he has become serious and regards the 3 daughters as an unprecedented enemy. He thinks that it is not easy to deal with each of them. Therefore, we have to separate them and come up with the strategy one by one. The first stage is Linger. Tony thinks that Linger has been following Tang Feng for the longest time and is the most obedient. She has the softest heart and is the best at coaxing. The second stage is Blinking. Her temper is also very good. It was originally a hug. For Tang Feng, his love is also mixed with his admiration for the strong and his gratitude to Tang Feng for saving Mutant, which is a bit complicated. However, these are also the advantages of Tang Feng attracting Blinking. So it cannot be said that Blinking love is not pure. In the aspect of love between men and women, it is a very complicated process. If you have to pursue a very simple love, there will be no such person in the world. This kind of person will only be destined to be lonely and grow old. After talking about it, I understood Blinking love, and Tony also knew the way to deal with her. As long as you give her some warmth and care, I believe that, like Linger, you can be easily forgiven. The third stage is Kin. It is a bit troublesome, because of the reason of integration with Dark Phoenix. Even if she loves Tang Feng, she still has the temperament of Dark Phoenix and will not forgive Tang Feng so easily. The way Tony thought of this was, one word, writing. The first is the first stage, to invite Linger out alone. Tang Feng remembered Tony's words, took a deep breath, and went to find Linger. Because the war for troop training was over, everyone returned to a busy state, preparing for the next war. Only Tang Feng, relying on his king status, made an excuse to be lazy and left all the tasks to Magneto and Charles, so that he could do his own thing. $1,526,723,825. Are you right? 35. As soon as Tang Feng entered the head of the house's office, he heard what Linger said. He changed his gentle temperament and became very strict, like a strong woman in the workplace, slammed the account book on the table and shouted loudly, in front of Linger. A secretary was bowing her head tremblingly, very nervous and frightened, and even Roar did not dare to suck any more. Behind her, there are 3 secretaries, all holding an accounting book in both hands, waiting for Linger check. They are also very nervous, like students facing the teacher checking their homework. Be nice. Tang Feng secretly swallowed and flattened his mouth. How did his Linger become like this? Couldn't he have gone to the wrong place? Brother, why are you here? At this moment, Linger noticed that Tang Feng had come in and quickly stood up, walked to Tang Feng and asked. 0. Ask for flowers, meet the king. The 4 secretaries beside him hurriedly stood up together, bowed their heads and bowed to Tang Feng, and paid tribute to them. They were very excited and secretly looked at Tang Feng. This is the king of Atlantis. He has great power and is very handsome. He is simply the most perfect Prince Charming for women. Iron Man and Tony are the difference between heaven and earth. The captain is also not qualified to compare. Since the last World Conference, in the live broadcast, the captain was defeated without resistance, which has disappointed many people. In the final analysis, strength is supreme. The captain, who has always been regarded as a belief, in front of Tang Feng, is just immortal. You go out first. 95. Tang Feng nodded to them, then waved his hand and told them to go out, looked at Linger again, and gently said, Linger, we haven't gone out alone for a long time, so let's go out today. 0. But I still have a lot of work to do. Linger was a little moved, but turned her head to look at the ledger on the desk, thinking that she was still having trouble with Tang Feng, so she said hesitantly because she couldn't easily agree. I'm busy with work, so I'll call the White Queen here and handle it for you for the time being. Tang Feng quickly said. Linger was still a little tangled and hesitant. Linger, I just want to hang out with you alone. Even if you don't forgive me, you will still agree with Kin, Flicker and the others, so there's no need to do this to me, right? I just want to hang out with you and hang out with you, okay? Tang Feng held Linger's hands forward and said with a very sad look. Well then. Seeing Tang Feng's sad look, Linger softened her heart even though she knew it was fake. Besides, she originally wanted to go out alone with Tang Feng, but she couldn't bear to refuse, so she nodded and agreed. Tang Feng was overjoyed and pulled Linger towards the portal with one hand behind him and made a victory gesture. The first stage went well, and it finally got off to a good start. Chapter 185. The White Queen Who Harnessed the Fire. As long as you bring Linger out, the level 1 stage will be half done. After that, just go back to the old places with her, go to the places they know, and arouse their nostalgia. When their emotions reach the peak, in that case, people's behaviors will be affected by emotions and generate impulses that go against their intentions one by one. Just like the romantic proposal in the scene, why is the success rate of such a proposal so high? The highest is because she is moved and thus impulsive. So, while she is trapped in memories and nostalgic for the things you have been alone with, you can take a risk and take her into your arms when it is most suitable. So, just let it happen naturally. Tony waved both hands, making an easy-to-understand gesture, indicating with his eyes, "Do you understand?" Tang Feng nodded directly and understood. The memories were over. Tang Feng took Linger out of the portal and returned to the 960 and Lavis casinos again. The place where he appeared was the small alley where Linger first met. When Linger saw the vaguely familiar alleys around her, her face was stunned. She couldn't help but fall into recollection and recalled the past. Tang Feng looked at her. The corners of his mouth couldn't help but rise, and he couldn't help but smile proudly. Very good. So far, everything planned is similar to what Tony guessed. How did you bring me here? Linger missed it for a moment, looked at Tang Feng and asked. Well, I don't know why. When I thought of going out to play with you alone, I couldn't help but think of this place. Here, We met for the first time. You stood in the alley, turned into a mutant, and killed the debtor, and I, standing there, saw it all. 99 It's funny, I originally wanted a hero to save the beauty, but who knows that I don't need to take any action. Tang Feng had a tender look on his face and thought to himself. When Linger heard it, she also showed a tender and sweet look to her. These words were the best words of love. Who said that you don't need your hero to save the beauty? If you didn't take me back, I would miss you. You. Linger took Tang Feng's hand, rested her head on his shoulder, said with a smile, and slowly walked along the alley towards the outside. Ha ha ha, yes, I'm really happy that I chose to keep you. Having you in this life is definitely a blessing that I have cultivated in my last life. Tang Feng smiled, seeing Linger's gentle appearance. He knew that she was 90% complete. He couldn't help but feel very happy and excited. The love word she thought of before could be said naturally. HMPH, how did your mouth become so sweet? Linger's heart sweetened when she heard it, but she couldn't help it. Son dear asked, is there? Then give me a taste. Is it really that sweet? Tang Feng leaned her face towards him with a smile on her face. No, you have bad breath. Linger's face turned red, but she still maintained her sanity in her heart. Thinking of Hecken and showing her agreement, she couldn't persuade Tang Feng so easily and forgive him. Is there? No, how is it possible? Tang Feng shouted loudly. His body was no longer mortal, he definitely wouldn't have bad breath. And he knew that this was Linger's excuse. I said there is, but there isn't. Linger snorted softly and turned her face away. Okay, you have the final say. Tang Feng shrugged helplessly. Today, there are plenty of opportunities, and he is in no hurry. By the way, you took me out without telling the White Queen. You should inform her and let her help me finish the accounts. Linger remembered her work, gave Tang Feng a blank look, pushed his body with her hand, and urged, okay, I'll let him know. Tang Feng quickly responded, took out his phone, and called the White Queen. Hey, is it Tang Feng? What's wrong? You don't want to find me, do you? Ha ha ha, yes. You are quite lonely now until you can't get her forgiveness, so you can only find me. As soon as the call was connected, the White Queen's charming smile and a series of words came from the phone. Cough cough, I have something to tell you. And Linger brought it to me temporarily, so she will temporarily hand over her account books to you. Tang Feng listened to the White Queen's words. His face was full of black lines, especially after noticing Linger's unintelligible smile. His heart suddenly burst, knowing that it was the White Queen's words that disturbed Linger's mood, and he had already lost his memories of deep nostalgia. He woke up. He regretted not calling the White Queen in front of Linger, coughed a few times, interrupted her, and briefly explained the situation. Oh, that's right. 39 I have no opinion on you taking Linger out to play, but I also have something to do, so I may not have time to help. The White Queen's words pretended to hesitate and spread out. Brother, since the White Queen doesn't have much free time, I will go back. At this moment, Linger said, a woman's heart is to say that she will change. Without the strong nostalgia, Linger is on alert. She wants to be on the same side as her best friend and cannot easily settle for Tang Feng. Yes, she definitely has. Wait. Tang Feng was in a hurry, and as he spoke quickly, he walked away, lowered his voice and said, okay, don't cause trouble. I really need your help. Help me do Linger's work first. But, I also have something to do. If I help Linger handle the books, I will be exhausted. Unless. The White Queen didn't say anything in the middle of her speech, which made people lose their appetite. Unless what? Say it. Tang Feng rolled his eyes, daring to take advantage of the situation. It was really brave. Unfortunately, the actual timing of this robbery suddenly caught him in a dead end. Unless you play a game with me. The game I heard from the Black Queen yesterday is very interesting, and I really want to play with you. Tang Feng was startled. He swallowed. He was going to die. On the other hand, if you insist on doing this, I can only find someone else to help me. He shook his head, shaking off the unbearable image in his mind, and said firmly, really not? The White Queen's disappointed words came out of her mouth. Absolutely not. No negotiation, Tang Feng said with certainty. Well then, otherwise the White Queen didn't force Tang Feng either. She knew that forcing him like this would make him annoyed. As a result, 4.7 must be miserable. Okay, that's all. Tang Feng nodded hesitantly, then disconnected the phone, shook his head with a wry smile, and cursed inwardly. He really knows how to play. Okay, the White Queen has agreed, we can have fun today. Walking back to Linger, Tang Feng pretended to be relaxed. Linger didn't immediately nod, but hesitated. She already had the heart to go back. Tang Feng noticed this and felt that roar was not good, so he used his trump card, squeezed Linger's small hand with one hand, and said in a gentle and domineering tone, "Let's go. Don't think about going back. No matter what happens today, you can't do it. I'll take you away from me." After speaking, he took Linger and walked out of the alley. During this process, Linger did not struggle and let Tang Feng walk away. She was helpless and angry. She couldn't help but reject Tang Feng. Chapter 186 unlocks a new hobby. After that, things went well. Tang Feng took Linger to the place where he used to be and turned around. Not only was Linger immersed in good memories again, but it was also inevitable and deeply missed the past. First the hotel thing, the 3 mutants arrived, then the shopping pleasure, then the arrival of Mystique, until they returned to New City. In that residence, it was a place where 2 people changed from boy and girl to man and woman. Tang Feng and Linger looked at each other and smiled, hugged each other tightly, and then, as for where the original owner of the house went, who knows? We won't say it and we don't dare to ask. From morning to afternoon, Tony, who was also sleeping soundly in Tony's residence in New City, was disturbed again by Tang Feng's call. With Jarvis's reminder, he closed his eyes and let Jarvis connect, using a weak and sleepy phone. In a tone of voice, he asked, "What's wrong? Is it a plan that doesn't work?" Speaking of this, he reacted slowly, woke up slightly from the fright, and reluctantly opened his eyes. "No, on the contrary. Your plan is feasible, and the plan for level 1 has succeeded. Oh 9, I called you just to tell you the good news. You are still sleeping, so I won't disturb you." Tang Feng finished speaking happily and hung up the phone. Tony was a little crazy and disturbed his sleep just to announce the good news. What did he do in his previous life to provoke Tang Feng, the enemy? However, it is indeed good news. You can sleep in peace. The unpleasant mood was only for a while, Tony muttered, and was about to fall asleep again. He yawned a few times, and said to Jarvis, "No matter what call comes today, don't answer me, and don't come to disturb me. I'm so sleepy that if I don't sleep until I wake up naturally, I will definitely lose my life." After finishing speaking, she took the quilt, covered her head, and fell asleep. "Okay, sir." However, if Tang Feng, who she is focusing on, does not answer the phone if she calls, Jarvis is artificial intelligence in the end. It will not rigidly obey orders, she reminded. After a while, Tony's helpless voice came from the quilt. "No, let's answer his phone. Damn it, sooner or later, he will play it to death." After saying this, Roar's growl soon came. In the evening, in the temporary palace of Atlantis, Tang Feng had returned with Linger's hand, and the two were very sweet, like lovers in love. "I'm going back," Linger said reluctantly, let go of Tang Feng's hand, and left first. Because she, Twinkle, and Kin all agreed, they are in the same camp, and they want to face Tang Feng, strengthen the bottom line in their hearts, and they can't forgive Tang Feng so easily. As a result, Linger betrayed them, and she was very embarrassed to coax Tang Feng so quickly, so like a thief, she didn't dare to find out for them. So she temporarily separated from Tang Feng. Tang Feng watched Linger walk away and shrugged, not caring. He was done with Linger anyway. When the piano is put back, the flickering ends and everything returns to its original state. "Tomorrow flickers," Tang Feng muttered to himself and fell asleep happily again. However, he is in a good mood now and is no longer sleepy, and is simply strolling around the temporary palace. To be honest, although it was his temporary palace, he didn't pay much attention to it and didn't often go out for a walk. Now, if you look closer, you will find that the palace at night is brightly lit, arranged in a shape, and has all kinds of decorations such as flowers and rockeries. It also looks very comfortable, just like the ancient palace. In fact, when this temporary palace was built, Tang Feng's views were also referenced, so it leaned towards the Oriental style. Hehehe, what a cool pool. Yeah, after a busy day, it's really comfortable to soak in now. Hey, I just discovered that Shadow Cat has a good figure. You are so young. How can you, White Queen, you have a good figure, which is really enviable. And the Queen of Darkness, she is too enviable, a little naughty, don't you think? Well, how do you take care of your body? Do you want to know? Come here and I'll tell you. After a while, a timid roar of surprise came faintly. Really? The King of Real. Tang Feng stood in the dark, touching his nose to eavesdrop. He didn't deliberately eavesdrop. Who are the Black Queen, the White Queen, Little Naughty, and Shadow Cat, who were bathing here? If I remember correctly, this is the place where he took a bath. It should be that no one dares to enter this forbidden place except him, Linger and 3 daughters. However, the Black Queen and the White Queen are no longer outsiders, and Shadow Cat and Little Naughty are also acquaintances, so he doesn't blame him. Therefore, they took a place to take a bath, and Tang Feng looked at it silently. It was reasonable, and there was nothing wrong with it. Wow. Tut everything 35. Tang Feng peeked out and let out a strange cry in a low voice, and suddenly found that it was cool and exciting. In this way, after taking a look, Tang Feng went back to sleep in a happy mood. Early the next morning, he went out according to plan. Flicker was excluded from his family because he had the ability to awaken since he was a child and became a mutant. After meeting Sabretooth, he recognized him as his adoptive father and chose to leave home and join the Brotherhood with him. Therefore, Tony analyzes that Flicker is a lack of love. In this regard, the way to coax Flicker is to influence her with love. First, take Blink to an orphanage, play with her and accompany the orphans, and do some good deeds. Then he accompanied her back to her old house, and 960, as her boyfriend, allowed her to see how her relatives were doing. It doesn't matter if Twinkle ever resented her family, or what. In the end it was her relatives. She still had an inseparable affection in her heart. The result was not a surprise. Flicker's family knew Tang Feng's identity and Mutant's identity was different, so it was a welcome surprise for Flicker's return. Facing the enthusiasm of her family, Twinkle gradually put aside her grievances and accepted her family again after she was not used to it at first. This is a family dinner where relatives gather, and the flashing smiles are particularly beautiful today. Tang Feng saw this scene and was happy for her, and had temporarily forgotten the plan. He regretted that he had not cared enough about his women. If it weren't for this time, he would go to Tony for advice and really not think about bringing Flicker to see his family. It was also Tony's analysis that allowed Tang Feng to have a more comprehensive understanding of the 3 girls. Thinking about it is really embarrassing. It turns out that all the time he has not fulfilled the responsibility of a boyfriend. It's just that I've always been accustomed to their existence and their unconditional contribution. Chapter 187. The Thoughts of the Little Rascal and Shadow Cat. Flickering's reunion with the family was undoubtedly very happy, and the smile on her face remained until the family banquet was over and she left with Tang Feng. At this moment, Tang Feng finally remembered the original plan. The corner of his mouth curled up, and he left for the forest with a flash. Flickering was immersed in a happy mood and didn't notice it for a while. When she woke up, it was too late, and Tang Feng had already extended an evil hand to her. At this moment, there is no doubt that this situation is very suitable for romance. Therefore, it was not easy for Blink to refuse, and she did not want to refuse, so Tang Feng succeeded in his refusal. So far, the second stage, the Raiders' strategy Flickering. It has been a perfect success, and only Kin is left. When the night came, when Tang Feng took Blink back to Atlantis, Blink and Linger chose the same and left first. Tang Feng laughed and shook his head, so he let her go. This time, without waiting for Tang Feng to call to harass Tony, who had already slept enough and was full of energy, couldn't hold back his anxiety and took the initiative to call to ask how the plan was going. The plan is progressing very well, only the piano is missing. Tomorrow I will make an appointment to fight her and conquer her. Don't worry. As long as the piano is coaxed, I will help you remove the welts. Then I will hang up first. Tang Feng shook his head amusedly and hung up Tony's phone. It seemed that he was very concerned about the welts on his body. Then, he stretched, ready to take a bath, or go there to soak. 99 Suddenly, he remembered what happened last night, and his heart was moved. Moreover, he was not used to bathing there before. The pool built in the small palace garden is built according to the specifications of the hot spring. The area of 10 meters x 10 meters is comparable to a small swimming pool. The water in the pool is very cool. In this slightly hot weather, it is definitely a place to take a bath. Think about it and do it. Tang Feng went to the pool to take a bath. The process of bathing was very smooth, and there were no unexpected encounters. This place belongs to Tang Feng, except for the Black Queen and the White Queen who don't care. The little naughty boy and Shadow Cat have some scruples after all, and they won't come often. In fact, Tang Feng was a little strange. He soaked in the pool water and felt that it was not much different from ordinary water. That is, it was colder. With the current capital, they can build as many play pools as they want. So why did they come here to bathe? Is there any difference in the pool here? Tang Feng thought strangely, scratched his head and thought about it. The little girl's mind was always hard to guess. He couldn't guess. Little Naughty, are you done? Let's take a bath tonight, Tilda. At Little Naughty's residence, Shadow Cat entered through the wall through skill, and saw Little Naughty sitting in the office, stretched out and closed the file in his hand. Obviously he had finished his work. Shadow Cat, how many times have I told you, please ring the doorbell when you come, you can't just come in like this every time. Little Naughty patted her forehead and said helplessly, understood, let's take a bath again. Shadow Cat treated it indifferently, pulling Little Naughty's hand and urging her, I won't go tonight, after all it's the king's place, we always go there to bathe, it's not legal, besides, it would be embarrassing to bump into him. The little naughty boy held back the thought of wanting to go, waved his hand and said, okay, even if we bump into the king, he won't blame us. Maybe, he still wants to bathe with us. Shadow Cat blinked, half joking. Finally speak your mind, you've been taking me to bathe together. It happened to be with this idea, to have an accidental encounter with the king. Then, you can take the opportunity to talk to the king, invite him to take a dip, and then, the little naughty boy didn't finish her sentence, but the meaningful smile and expression on her face had already vaguely revealed a meaning. Yes, I just want to hook up with the king. Shadow Cat's face turned red, she suppressed her panic and bravely said what was in her heart. Tang Feng is not only the king of Atlantis, but also the most powerful man and also very handsome. Who doesn't want to marry him and be his woman? Don't you have this idea? She said, looking at the little naughty girl and asking back, I didn't. The little naughty girl panicked and said duplicitously, to say that you didn't think about it would be a lie. Just as Shadow Cat said, as a girl who is still in the fantasy of beautiful love, she definitely admires Tang Feng secretly in her heart. Because of Tang Feng's appearance, it has brought a lot of changes to Mutant, and it has also affected the fate of many people, and the little naughty girl is one of them. If there is no accident, when she is injected with the antidote serum, she may become Poppy's lover, Iceman. However, it was Tang Feng who personally helped her solve the ability defect, and her first hug was also given to Tang Feng. Because of this, her gratitude to Tang Feng, coupled with her admiration and longing, made her involuntarily secretly fall in love with Tang Feng. This is not surprising, many girls are also secretly in love with Tang Feng, but they are not qualified to contact Tang Feng, they are just unrequited love, like crazy groupies. The little naughty girl is different. She can often contact Tang Feng. At her current age, it is the time when young girls love fantasy, so it will not be so easy to notice. Stop thinking about Tang Feng, and choose who will be her boyfriend. In this way, the little naughty girl works silently, while silently paying attention to Tang Feng. Then, because of some ulterior thoughts in Shadow Cat's heart, she wanted to 6 vertical bar meet Tang Feng unexpectedly, but she did not dare to do it alone, so she encouraged the little naughty girl. The little naughty girl agreed because she had the same thoughts about Tang Feng. Therefore, in the final analysis, The two women simply got together because they had ideas about Tang Feng. They were so bold that they pretended to be confused and went to Tang Feng's bathroom from time to time. On the surface, he pretended to be very secretive, but in his heart, he really wanted to find out about Tang Feng quickly and then take advantage of the trend to tempt him, and then just understand it in your heart. You don't need to say it. I don't think so. If you don't like the king, why didn't you agree to Iceman? Poppy was his girlfriend, and why did you choose to go with me knowing that it was the king's pool? King Nuos, how about you take a bath? Shadowcat seems to have become a famous detective. The analysis said, okay, there's no reason. Love can't come, so I didn't accept Iceman. Poppy, as for the bath, I only agreed to go with you because I don't have a play pool here. The little naughty boy insisted on not admitting it, and denied Shadowcat's words one by one. Shadowcat rolled his eyes, trying to pretend to be confused, but he would never wake up. Tonight, neither of them went to take a bath, but they were arguing, one saying no, 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 no such thing. One insists that it must be thinking, just thinking about it. Well, they didn't know that they missed a good opportunity, and the encounter with Tang Feng passed them by. If God gave them another chance, they would definitely put on the most eye-catching swimsuit and go to the bath. Chapter 188 The True Phoenix. Another night passed. Today is the beginning of the third stage of the plan. Jokin goes out alone, just a word, writing. Tang Feng went to find Qin at around 7 in the morning and took her to practice with each other. The place to practice is on the coastal beach of Atlantis. Qin, haven't you always wanted to fight me? Then I will satisfy your thoughts now. I will suppress my power to level 4 and fight you fairly. If I win, you have to promise me a condition. On the contrary, if I lose, I promise you a condition. 99 inches. How? Promise or not? Tang Feng and Qin stood on the beach, and from time to time, the tide would surge and swell to their feet, wetting their shoes. The two of them stood 10 meters apart and faced each other. I promise. Qin's eyes radiated fighting intent, because he integrated the Dark Phoenix consciousness. His desire to do something has always been very strong, and he has long wanted to fight Tang Feng in a fair fight to see how strong he is. Therefore, he couldn't ask for Tang Feng's appointment. He didn't think much about it, and he didn't care that it was still awkward now. He nodded without saying a word. Very well. The corners of Tang Feng's mouth twitched, as Tony had guessed, taking advantage of Qin's current unstable state, eager for the 960 thoughts of the first battle, and successfully set it up. Next, as long as he defeats her, according to the agreement, Tang Feng offers to forgive him, and then Qin can be fixed. Thinking about it, Tang Feng's fighting spirit has also risen. For the blessing of the surname, he must win. Okay, come on. Shoot first. 99 Tang Feng suppressed the power in his body and only summoned the 4th level. His expression became serious, and he shouted loudly. As soon as his words fell, Qin he was not polite. His strength exploded, his long hair fluttered without wind, his eyes radiated light, and his hands were raised. I saw that the sand on the beach was rising, carrying a large amount of sea water, covering the sky above the two of them, like a huge wave, violently pressing down on Tang Feng. This move is too easy to handle. Be careful, I will use the natural disaster. 99 Tang Feng reminded, raised his right hand and snapped his fingers. The sea behind him obeyed his call, forming a real giant wave, layer upon layer, surging in the sand wave, a huge flood. Qin gritted his teeth, not thinking about shuddering. He increased his output power and piled up more sand. Psychokinesis also slammed into the giant waves, trying to resist. Stupid girl, even with the same level of power, it is impossible to resist my natural disaster. Just like the same magician of the same level, they can use all their strength to activate the forbidden magic. So, natural disaster is super forbidden magic that can surpass the level of killing gods. Tang Feng shook his head and muttered to himself, then said loudly, in terms of the power of the 4th level, if you use natural disaster continuously, you will get hurt, so I will only use natural disaster once. As long as you resist this natural disaster, or resist it in other ways, I will be considered a loser. You can also rest assured that the natural disaster I launched with the power of the 4th level will not secretly strengthen the power. Qin gritted his teeth and pushed forward with both hands. Psychokinesis had exploded. She heard Tang Feng's words, but she didn't have the energy to respond. So strong, Qin's body slowly took a step back, and her waist was also bent, as if she was carrying a large boulder. Roaring was uncomfortable. After only 10 seconds of resisting, she was so tired that she was still sweating, and the thought of giving up lingered in her mind. We can't give up. This is not all our strength. We can be stronger, and explode all the phoenix forces hidden in the body. We can do it. Suddenly, there seemed to be an involuntary cry from Dark Phoenix in Jin's mind. Yes, that's right, I am Phoenix. I can't give up easily. Let's defeat Tang Feng together, even if it's just once. Qin's originally decadent spirit, stimulated by Dark Phoenix, revived, screaming and desperately squeezing the power in his body. Tang Feng watched from a distance, and in a trance, he saw that Dark Phoenix's shadow overlapped with Qin, and stretched out his hands towards him, resisting the flood together, holding the same idea firmly, to defeat him. All right, that's it, with the idea of defeating me, go all out. He muttered, waved his hand lightly, and increased some strength again. Definitely, it will not exceed the 4th level. He is also disciplined and said that only the 4th level of strength is used, which is the 4th level. If the power of the same level competes and the natural disaster loses, it is really a joke. Although it has only strengthened a few strongholds, the power of the Great Flood has become stronger, and the seawater in the distance, like a door that has been opened, advances one after another, layer by layer. In this way, there was a grand scene that shocked the eyes. The waves and tsunamis rose hundreds of meters into the sky, as if they could connect the sky and the earth. The layers of waves are like countless layers of bread, whose weight is inestimable and can crush all the sandy beaches in this area, causing a huge impact on the mainland. Qin resists from below, like a small ant resisting the elephant's legs being pressed by the elephant, and is too self-sufficient. No matter how desperately Qin shouted and burst out in power, it was all in vain, only to see that tsunami that covered the sky, pressing down a pile of sand. It is ridiculous to say, the huge amount of sand that Qin has raised is so powerful that it can destroy things within a kilometer. Coupled with the powerful psychokinesis that she has blessed herself, she can be said to be at the peak of the 4th level power. Even so, this kind of power is still as small as a pile of sand compared to the huge waves above her head, and the weight is the sand that a hand can hold. This is the power of natural disasters. With the power of the 4th level, it can cause the destructive power of the 5th level. Could not resist. Qin has already knelt on one knee, gasping for breath, unwilling to think in her heart, don't give up. Yes, our phoenix strength is also very strong. Let's take out the true phoenix strength and show it to her. In Qin's heart, with the words of Dark Phoenix, the original progress of integration has accelerated due to Tang Feng's pressure. It seemed like a few seconds, and it seemed like a very long period of time had passed. This was in Jin's feelings, and she finally completely integrated Dark Phoenix's consciousness. From this moment on, she is the daughter of Phoenix, Qinjlei, the second 5th level mutant after Tang Feng. Hearing a loud shout, the huge wave that was pressing down stagnated in the air, and a large amount of seawater was decomposing and dissipating on the spot. Immediately afterwards, an even more powerful force surged out of Qin's body and shot straight into the sky, like the autumn wind sweeping away the leaves, and all the remaining huge waves disintegrated at once. For a time, it seemed as if nothing had happened. Chapter 189 is still too naive. Tang Feng smiled, not caring that the huge waves and tsunamis were destroyed, and Qin achieved a temporary breakthrough. This was the use of the power of the 5th level, which was already broken, so it was not considered a loss. Compared to the great happy event of Qin breaking through to the 5th grade, he did not care about the small things in the competition, and while clapping his hands happily, he walked towards Qin and said, "Congratulations, Qin. I have finally fully integrated Dark Phoenix and truly become a 5th level mutant. You are the second level 5 mutant after me. I think this is just the beginning, not the end. Our level 5 mutants will become more and more. One day, Our mutant's prestige can spread far and wide in the boundless universe. It will be amazing. This is something Tang Feng is looking forward to. Compared to the entire universe, a planet is too small. His ambition, his desire for adventure, prevented him from staying on the planet forever. This is the plan for the future. He didn't tell anyone, and only when he saw that Qin had become a 5th level mutant, did he reveal his. In the previous test, I used the power of the 5th level to destroy your huge wave and tsunami, so I lost. However, I am also a 5th level mutant now, and I am curious as to how powerful the true strength of the Phoenix is, so let's play one more game. Qin happily felt the power gushing out of his body. His fighting spirit grew stronger, and he was in no mood to listen to what Tang Feng said. First, he didn't mind admitting that he lost, and then he couldn't wait to invite another fight. Okay, let's fight again. I'm also curious about how strong the Phoenix Force really is. Tang Feng didn't hesitate and nodded with a smile. In this way, the two of them prepared to fight again, and each gathered their strength. It was Qin who attacked first, and with a loud shout, the Red Phoenix Force erupted, forming a flying Phoenix Phantom, flying towards Tang Feng. Everything it encountered along the way, be it seawater, sand, or air, all the oxygen mixed in it is decomposed. A good Phoenix Force can simply destroy everything, break everything down into molecules, move molecules, reorganize, and achieve nuclear fusion. With the power of the powerful mind, it can also interfere with time a little. If it is stronger one level, it can reverse time and reverse life and death. Tang Feng sighed and thought, and his hands kept moving. As he waved his hand downwards, the rising sun on the horizon shined even brighter, and a colorful ray of light could be seen from a distance. The torrent of energy brushed here. Calamity, solar storm. This time, it was a real solar storm. The torrent of energy was mixed with various cosmic rays, and was also mixed with the power of the fixed star of the sun. The combination of these energies also has the power to destroy the world. Deep inside Atlantis, the city of disaster and other places, everyone looked up and was horrified to find a huge, dazzling torrent of energy, which was attacking this continent from the horizon. From their point of view, it looks like a disaster. The continent will be destroyed, and they will be in danger, even dead. It was at this moment that Charles explained the situation through spiritual dialogue in a timely manner, calming everyone's panic. Knowing that it was the king who made them move, they were relieved and then slammed their mouths shut. The movement was too big and they were very curious to know what was going on. I hope your competition will be more powerful, otherwise this continent will not be able to withstand your toss. Charles muttered, but his face was full of smiles. He felt the Phoenix Force from the piano and knew that another 5th level mutant had been born. It is a great event to celebrate. At the battle scene, the attacks of the two collided with each other. In an instant, like a silent film, the energy torrent disappeared in front of the Phoenix shockwave, which disintegrated. On the other hand, the Phoenix Phantom is getting smaller and smaller. This is because the power is consumed. In the end, along with Qin's screams, he continued to increase his strength. The Phoenix Phantom that was about to disappear suddenly returned to its original state, breaking through the remaining energy torrent in one fell swoop, and then the defective Phoenix Phantom continued to rush towards Tang Feng. Tang Feng did not panic because of this. He wanted to test the outcome of the match between the force of the disaster and the force of the Phoenix, so he did not use the natural disaster to resist. He clenched his fist with his right hand, waved it with one hand, and also punched out the same file size, a Phoenix Phantom formed by calamity. The force of disaster is dark red, and the force of the Phoenix is bright red. These two Phoenixes are like the mythical beast Phoenix, reappearing in the world. In the end, the phantom power of the force of the Phoenix was exhausted, and when it completely dissipated, the phantom of the force of disaster Phoenix barely maintained a third of its form. 0. Ask for flowers. I lost. Qin looked at the dissipated Phoenix avatar, was silent for a moment, sighed, and automatically chose to admit defeat. There is no need to compare. The battle between the disaster force and the Phoenix force is even stronger. Moreover, Tang Feng also has several powerful natural disasters. If Tang Feng's firepower is at its maximum and the disaster force is attacked together with the natural disaster, he cannot resist it with the Phoenix Force alone. Therefore, after the battle, the gap between her and Tang Feng was tested, and there was no desire to fight anymore. You don't have to be discouraged. The Phoenix Force is actually a little worse than the Disaster Force. The reason why there is such a big gap in performance now is simply because your control ability is not good. When you train your control, your 100% Phoenix Force will be able to consume 90% of my Calamity Force. Tang Feng walked to Qin with a smile and explained, even so, you still have natural disasters. If my Phoenix strength is compared to yours, what power do I have to resist your natural disasters? At the end of the day, it is not lost. There is no chance of winning. Qin rolled his eyes and said sadly, if Qin's Phoenix strength is a mage, then Tang Feng's Calamity and Natural Disaster are 2 mage. With 1 against 2, he has no chance of winning. Moreover, the most desperate thing is that the Natural Disaster can jump the level to slaughter the gods. It is really too deceptive. Tang Feng shrugged. This was a cruel reality, and he didn't know how to comfort her. Okay, our battle is over. I won. According to the agreement, you have to promise me a condition. Tang Feng changed the subject and said with a smile, I know. What are the conditions? Let's talk. I agree. Qin never thought of reneging on her debt, so she said angrily, the condition is that you have to do it in front of them tonight. Tang Feng leaned into Qin's ear and said with a smile. Qin's pretty face flushed red and she glared at him. She was really a villain. She originally thought that Tang Feng's condition was for her to forgive and not cause trouble. Unexpectedly, she underestimated Tang Feng's shamelessness and wanted to win the conditions and fight for greater benefits. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 190 Mr. Fantastic Invitation. Before the competition, it had been agreed that the loser had to accept a condition. Therefore, no matter how timid and reluctant Qin was to the conditions Tang Feng had proposed, at night everything was still the same. After a good night, everything was back to normal. Today, the 3 days agreed with Tony had arrived. Early in the morning, before dawn, Tony drove a private jet, brought his large luggage, and arrived at Atlantis, announcing that he was officially going to work in the office for business affairs. Why have you come so early? Tang Feng didn't wake up until 10 o'clock in the morning, and the 3 daughters were still sleeping. If he hadn't known that Tony was already waiting for him, he might not have wanted to get up so early, so he wanted to stay in bed with the 3 daughters and continue sleeping. It's getting late. As a competent and motivated salaryman, it is definitely 1963 who must go to work early. Tony laughed at first, then couldn't help it and said, my plan is very effective. You have already been convinced again. According to the agreement, can I cure my welts? 35 inches. I know you are looking forward to this. Tang Feng sneered, waved his hand, stood up from the swivel chair, walked around the desk, did not think about breaching the contract, walked to Tony and snapped his fingers. The natural disaster was chaotic for a while. Through the power of time, the time of the welt was erased, as if it had never happened. Okay, your welts are gone. Tang Feng sat back, picked up the payphone and notified Beast Hank to come over. Really okay? Tony was taken aback. In his feelings, nothing should have happened, and he only saw Tang Feng snap his fingers. That's it. He quickly took off the clothes on his body and was stunned for a moment. Sure enough, he saw that the skin had returned to its original state, and there was no welt left. It's great, it's really good. There are no damn welts anymore. God, I can finally open a party and pick up girls casually. You don't know how hard it is these days. It's not a normal person's life. Tony walked happily and complained to Tang Feng. Unfortunately, even if your welts are gone, from now on, you won't have any free time to play around. The Academy of Sciences I just built needs your help. I'll tell you first, thank you for your hard work. Tang Feng shrugged, smiled, and said gloatingly. Tony's happy expression froze, as if a basin of cold water had been poured on his head. His heart was cold and cold. He cried out in pain, "You can't do this, let me play around for a few days, I'll come back to help you do things. You don't know, you've suffocated me these days." In response, Tang Feng gestured mercilessly and said, "Number." At this moment, Beast Hank knocked on the door and walked in. "You came just in time, take him away." Today, let him get familiar with the Academy of Sciences. Starting from tomorrow, we will set off and go to Wakanda to station ourselves and prepare to deal with it. With the crisis of annihilating the Zerg, Wakanda's advanced technology, as well as those countless vibraniums, you, Tony, and Suru must work together to research and do your best to develop more powerful vibranium weapons for me and arm my army. 5. So, in the war against the Zerg Annihilators, how many fewer people can die in my army? It all depends on the vibranium weapons you develop. Tang Feng patted Beast Hank and Tony on the shoulders one by one, waiting for them to nod. "I'll do my best, Tony, and we'll be colleagues for a while." Beast Hank nodded solemnly, extending his right hand to Tony. "I've read your article on genetics and it's really good. In terms of genius, you're only slightly worse than me." Tony extended his right hand and gently shook it with Beast Hank, nodding seriously. Although he's very proud, he's not arrogant. He definitely values Beast Hank's genius and wisdom. "Yes, if we have time, let's discuss genetics and let me see what genius Tony thinks differently." Beast Hank chuckled and withdrew his hand. Not to be outdone, genetics is his specialty, and in this field of research, he is more confident than Tony. "Okay, you are always welcome to ask." Tony raised his eyebrows, looking very confident, and spoke in a superior tone. Even if genetics was not his specialty, he would not be weaker than Beast Hank. Tony is proud, Beast Hank is also proud, or geniuses are proud. When they meet, they can sympathize with each other, and most of the time they will not convince each other. Tang Feng didn't care about this. They are both geniuses, so no one will accept the other, no matter how many disputes the two have in the future, as long as they can cooperate and research. So, he gestured to the two to leave, and then it was time to resume work. After all, he is a king, so he can't be lazy all day. Tony grimaced, knowing that he had no vacation left, so he followed Beast Hank. Suddenly, he thought of another genius, and also considered that it would be easier to do things with more people, and before leaving, he casually said, "I remember that Reed Richards was also a genius scientist, in terms of intelligence, and only slightly worse than me. So, you need scientists to work together on vibranium weapons, so why don't you invite him?" Tang Feng was stunned for a moment, looked at Tony's back, and touched his chin. If it weren't for Tony's reminder, he would have forgotten about this Mr. Fantastic. Although he is still an ordinary person, his brain is still just as smart, and it can actually help him. No, in the face of the crisis of annihilating the Zerg, it is not to help him, but to help him together. Thinking of it, Tang Feng has decided to invite Reed Richards over, brought the payphone, called White Queen, -4.7 connected, and immediately said, "Find out the genius scientist Reed Richards for me, now it's where to live." 99 inches okay. Knowing that this was business, White Queen stopped being naughty, neatly agreed, hung up the phone and went to inquire. Soon, Tang Feng heard White Queen's report and knew where Reed Richards currently lived. Thinking of going to Wakanda tomorrow, without wasting any time, he locked Reed Richards' residence through the detection domain, immediately opened the portal and entered. Chapter 191. Excuse me. New City, near Hell's Kitchen. It has a 20-story building, and Reed Richards' Private Research Institute is located in this building. The 19th floor. This is a half-new and half-old building. The decoration is not good. The location is not good. After all, it is close to Hell's Kitchen and security are not very reliable. Judging from this kind of living conditions, as a genius scientist, Reed Richards is also considered to have a very unsatisfactory life, and his funds are not very sufficient. According to the information provided by the White Queen, Tang Feng also knows the current situation of Mr. Fantastic. Although he has a smart brain and many inventions, he is proud and stubborn. The man leads. He just wants to do his own thing. He just wants to invent his own technology. He just wants to research the projects he wants to research, and he doesn't want to act in people's faces at all. Therefore, although he has a smart brain comparable to Tony, he doesn't have a good father, and he doesn't have the wealth of a large group to be willful and squander whatever he wants to study. He has to find a way to get the money, to get all the scientific and technological instruments for research. 09. Everything is done by himself. Therefore, over the years, for his own research, he sold a lot of invention fees to support his research projects. However, the funds needed for scientific research are a bottomless pit, and it is simply difficult to sustain the little money from these inventions by selling them. Moreover, he does not know how to do business. He only spends money, but does not make money. If this continues, his life will become worse and worse. The days are not good and there are many bad things. Today, he and his girlfriend Susan are arguing again. You are studying every day, but have you ever considered our life? The funds are running out, and if this continues, we won't be able to pay the rent in a few days and then we will be out on the streets. In the research institute on the 19th floor, Susan, who had not yet become an invisible woman, shouted discontentedly. Trust me, Susan, as long as I succeed in researching this project and sell it with my invention, I will definitely get a lot of funds. Reed Richards suppressed his irritability and patiently persuaded. Beside the two of them, there are two men watching helplessly. One is Susan's younger brother Johnny, who has not yet become the Human Torch. The other is Ben, who has not yet become a Stone Man. As his right-hand man, they helped Reed Richards research and invent. Reed and Susan's quarrels, which had become 35. We lived in the city center a few years ago, and the institute was not far from the Stark building, but now, it's close to the filthy and criminal Hell's Kitchen. Do you know that every time I go out, I'm on guard, afraid of some bad guy? Do you know that I was almost dragged into the alley a few days ago? If I hadn't been alert all the time, struggling desperately, run away, and you might never see me again. Susan was so excited that she could no longer restrain the grievances in her heart. She covered her mouth with one hand and cried. What? Is there such a thing? Are you okay? Reed was startled, walked to Susan nervously, and asked with concern. Johnny and Ben beside him also walked over with nervous expressions, and said with concern, God, it's terrible. Are you okay? Nonsense. If I have something to do, can I stay here? Susan pushed Reed away, wiped her tears, and said roar roar. Reed lowered his head guiltily and said remorsefully, I'm sorry, because I was immersed in the investigation and I didn't care about you. I definitely. Are you going to leave the investigation behind? Susan interrupted Reed with a wave of her hand and asked, you know, I can't just leave my research behind. It's more painful than killing myself, but I swear to you, even if I do, I'll make time to take care of you. Reed muttered, he's not a lover, he doesn't know how to coax girls, he can only say with a sincere face, I don't believe what you say. He said, I don't know you yet, as long as you start studying, you'll even forget to eat. How can you still care about me? Susan turned her face angrily and affirmed. Johnny and Ben, standing side by side, looked at each other and shrugged helplessly. They both affirmed Susan's words from the bottom of their hearts. Reed is a research fanatic. Reed opened his mouth and couldn't speak for a long time. This was a fact. He couldn't deny it. He wasn't used to lying, and he couldn't say cute words of love. Seeing this, Susan felt very disappointed and fell silent. After a while, she finally made up her mind. She had had enough of this life and wanted to part ways. Reed, I've made a decision. We're still Susan. The expression at the moment and what he was saying revealed a breakup attitude, which made Reed panic, and Johnny and Ben were shocked. He didn't expect that today's fight would turn into a breakup scene. At this moment, a portal suddenly appeared out of nowhere, and Tang Feng walked out of it, interrupting Susan's words, attracting the attention of the four of them. Excuse me, I'm here for the genius scientist Reed Richards. 35. This planet is facing a crisis, and it's a matter of human existence, so I need your help. 35 Tang Feng looked at the four of them and immediately identified who was looking for 963, said seriously and pointed at Reed. Me? Planetary crisis, the survival of all mankind? Reed pointed at himself, stunned, completely confused. Susan, Johnny, and Ben were also staring blankly. They were arguing, and were about to have a tragic breakup. Who would have thought that a person suddenly appeared, and the moment he opened his mouth, it was an extinction crisis, which made people confused. I know who you are. You are the king of Atlantis, mutant Tang Feng. Johnny looked at Tang Feng and recognized him first. He pointed at Tang Feng and shouted in shock to roar. The three of Reed were all shocked. Compared to the photos spread on the internet, they were exactly the same. And it was indeed Tang Feng himself. Okay, since you know who I am, it's easy to handle. Don't waste my time, just follow me. Tang Feng snapped his fingers, then turned around and walked towards the portal. Immediately afterwards, the four of Reed cried out in horror and followed Tang Feng into the portal involuntarily. Chapter 192, Control of Fate. One step beyond the portal, he returned to Tang Feng's office. You don't have to be restricted, just sit wherever you want. Tang Feng sat on the sofa and invited Reed to sit with the four of them, while slowly brewing a pot of tea. Oh my God, what is this place? Susan looked around and said in a panic. Ben, Johnny and the others were also very uneasy and looked at Tang Feng in a panic. King of Atlantis, you suddenly appeared, and what kind of strange power did you use to bring us here? What other purpose? Reed barely calmed down and asked loudly in front of the three of them. With following Tang Feng here, the power that controlled their bodies inexplicably before has disappeared. Don't panic, I have no ill will towards you. Come, sit down and have a cup of tea, and I will explain the reason to you later. 35 Tang Feng first poured himself a cup of tea, and then poured himself 4 cups of tea respectively, made a pleased gesture, and said slowly. The four of Reed hesitated for a moment, seeing that Tang Feng was so kind, as if he had no thoughts of harm, and could not resist Tang Feng. They each sat down hesitantly, and gently picked up a cup to slowly put the freshly brewed tea in. Drink slowly. All right, listen to me. Next, I will explain the reason to you. Because the annihilation of the Zerg is approaching. This is a huge crisis affecting the entire planet, and no one can escape. We, the mutants, the Avengers, and other countries, have secretly united, just to prevent ordinary people from knowing. After that, it caused a great deal of confusion and was not made public for the time being. Next, while making tea and drinking, Tang Feng solemnly explained the reason to the four Reeds. During the entire process, the four Reeds were shocked and stunned for a while. If they didn't know that Tang Feng didn't need to lie, they might have thought that they were talking about the plot of the movie, the annihilation of the Zerg, the Kree, and the Skrulls. Sure enough, we were right. In the boundless universe, we are not just a human race. I don't know how advanced the technology in the universe is. I'm really looking forward to it, Reed said very excitedly, like a researcher struggling to find the truth and finally coming into contact with the truth of the world. Now is not the time to think about this. We have to find a way to fight against the coming Zerg annihilation, save our lives, and then have a chance to think about other things. Susan gave Red a helpless look and reminded him, the truth turns out to be like this. I know that there have been some disturbing comments on the internet recently, and it is not without reason. No matter how well you hide it, and such a big action, when you are secretly preparing for it, it is impossible for all of them to hide it. Now, not only is there a commotion on the internet, there are all kinds of rumors. In some countries, even within their own countries, there have also been demonstrations and protests, demanding that you reveal the truth. Johnny said with a sudden realization, in order to deal with the Zerg annihilation, are you going to use Reed's smart brain to help you research some hot weapon? 35 Ben touched his head and said in a deep voice, yes, I have gathered Tony, Hank, Shuri, and Miss Yu, Reed Richards. You are all geniuses, and if you cooperate in the research, you will definitely be able to make the research of vibranium technology even more powerful and perfect. 35 Tang Feng nodded and said, vibranium technology? The vibranium you speak of, Isn't that rare and expensive vibranium? Reed was so surprised, he asked in disbelief. In this regard, Tang Feng nodded with a smile and added, "For me, vibranium is not precious, because I have an inexhaustible vibranium mine." The four Reeds widened their eyes, and Roar said, "How is it possible?" Tang Feng nodded in confirmation. It was possible. After a while, the four Reeds recovered from their shock. After repeated confirmation, they had to believe that there really was a vibranium mine. "Okay, then it's settled. I'll trouble you with the study of vibranium technology." Tang Feng called a female assistant and told her to take the four of Reed out, take care of arranging the accommodation, and then take Reed to work at the Academy of Sciences. At this moment, Reed was not surprised by Tang Feng's expectations. After hesitating, he nodded and agreed to go to work. Whether it was out of curiosity about vibranium technology, the vibranium mine, or the Zerg annihilation crisis, he had no reason to refuse. However, he also has conditions. In addition to taking some vibranium as a reward, it was also agreed that when the Zerg annihilation crisis was over, he would leave and could not be forced to stay with him. Tang Feng did not have the heart to hold back and nodded. That's it. The four of Reed are temporarily working for Tang Feng. Before leaving, Reed remembered what Tang Feng forced and asked curiously, "The Zerg annihilation crisis is over. Strange power that controls us is the legendary disaster? Is it a natural disaster?" "No, it doesn't count. To be precise, it should be the force of destiny." Tang Feng shook his head, explained a little, and did not continue. The four Reeds had no choice but to leave, half talking and half staying. It was too hateful to be so appetizing. Vertical bar control of destiny. Tang Feng was drinking tea and talking to himself. Destiny manipulation is the ability to control the four Reed people. Although he has not yet reached the 6th level, that is, before he has initially reached the level of a true god, he is not qualified to use the true power of destiny. However, it is still possible to have a little contact and understand some of the mysteries of destiny, so as to develop the application skills that are unique to the power of destiny. It was through destiny that he affected the destiny of the four Reeds, as if giving the result. In destiny, the four Reeds were going to follow Tang Feng to Atlantis. Then, they will follow the arrangement of fate, whether they are willing or not. They must follow Tang Feng and leave. The use of this power of destiny has escaped the limitation of disasters and natural disasters, and is another brand new method of using the power of destiny. Just like a magician, according to his magic origin, he created a new magic on his own. And the disaster, good for King Nuo, the natural disaster, is the fixed magic skill given to him by the source of magic. However, Tang Feng couldn't really use the power of destiny after all. With just a little bit of knowledge, even if he created a new skill, for the time being, he didn't have much power. Unless it is through the power of destiny, he can understand more mystery. For now, the manipulation of destiny can only affect ordinary people. If it is an existence above the extraordinary, with his own strength, he can break free from Tang Feng's mercy. Tang Feng was drinking tea and thought of a strange sentence. "My life depends on me." With the power controlled by your current destiny, if you want to control the extraordinary, you really respond to this sentence. Chapter 193. Enter Wakanda. Counting time. In the Elder's prophecy, less than 2 months have passed since the arrival of the Zerg annihilation. Time flies. Tang Feng sighed in his heart, looked down, and saw the 100,000 troops that had gathered again below. Magneto and others were in front, Beast Hank, Tony, and Reed 4, and they were also with a group of people from the Academy of Sciences. The garrison in Wakanda, in preparation for war, officially begins today. Set off. Tang Feng shouted, opened the huge number of portals, flew into the air, and flew out first. The 100,000 soldiers behind him, also led by Magneto and others, marched slowly and orderly, crossing the portal. On the other side of the portal, Wakanda was already prepared, and the person leading the warriors in front was no longer the old king, but the new Black Panther, T'Challa, who took the king's throne. The woman standing beside him was Princess Suru. "Well, what about you? Where's the old king?" Tang Feng landed and asked unexpectedly. "Father, he passed away yesterday." and the kingship has been handed over to me. The new Black Panther T'Challa, having seen the king, I represent Wakanda and will continue to serve him. Black Panther took a deep breath, said sadly, suppressed the humiliation, and walked forward to pay homage on one knee, expressing his loyalty. 967 My deepest condolences and change. Since you're the king of Wakanda, you will have to cooperate in the future. My army has arrived, and it is enough to hand over the garrison to Magneto. From now on, you are one step below Magneto, and you cannot disobey no matter what the order is, you know? Tang Feng comforted him casually, and didn't care whether the old king committed suicide or was exhausted from guilt, and ordered, yes, as ordered. 9 Black Panther was silent, gritted his teeth, clenched his fists, and nodded reluctantly. If it is a very unreasonable order, can't an objection be raised? Seeing that Tang Feng was so domineering, Surui couldn't help but say, Sister Wang, shut up. What the king says, we can do whatever we want. Black Panther was startled, afraid that Tang Feng would be blamed, and quickly turned his head and scolded. Surui bit his lip and reluctantly shut up. It's okay, you don't have to worry, she's just expressing different opinions. I'm not that stingy, yet, and I'll kill someone just because of a nasty remark. Tang Feng's smiling words made Black Panther and the others feel a chill in their hearts. How could it sound like they were sincere? You are Princess Surui, aren't you? Tang Feng looked at Surui and asked, regardless of what Black Panther and the others thought. Yes, yes. Surui replied nervously and softly, letting her be as smart as she was, facing Tang Feng's invincible power. Just like a scholar meeting a soldier, she can only be swayed and crushed. I know you are very smart. In the previous war, you also invented the instrument, which brought great trouble to my army. Tang Feng said, seeing Suru's more nervous appearance and the panic of Black Panther and others. He waved his hands and continued, you don't have to worry, I won't blame her for it. 5 On the contrary, I admire her intelligence. Years so, I brought Beast Tank, Iron Man Tony, and the talented scientist Reed Richards, plus you Shuru, and then we will work together to study vibranium technology. I hope that before the arrival of the Annihilation Zerg, with your wisdom, you can make vibranium technology more powerful and be able to better deal with the Annihilation Zerg. At that time, not only us, or the Avengers, or the nations, but also you Wakanda, will be here to fight against the Annihilation Zerg. So, for your homeland and your people, do your best to help me. Do you understand? Tang Feng patted Surui on the shoulder with one hand, narrowed his eyes, and said with a smile, Black Panther, Surui, and the others were all puzzled. Although he already knew about the annihilation of the Zerg, he never thought that Wakanda would become a battlefield. King, how do you know that the Annihilation Zerg will definitely come here? Black Panther was nervous at the thought of Wakanda being the front line of the battle against the Annihilation Zerg. Oblivion. Without a doubt, whether the war is won or lost, Wakanda will destroy the war. Because it is fate. Tang Feng raised his eyebrows, without explaining too much. It cannot be said that he was invited. If so, Black Panther's resentment against him would be even stronger. Although he didn't take Black Panther seriously, before the war came, in order to prevent him from being carried away by resentment and taking impulsive revenge, he did not specifically say the reason. For Tang Feng's explanation, Black Panther and others are definitely not reconciled, but seeing that Tang Feng is unwilling to speak, they dare not ask anymore. Next, all 100,000 soldiers came out, and the huge numbers of the portal disappeared. Magneto walked over, first met Tang Feng, and then rudely asked Black Panther for command of Wakanda. As soon as he opened his mouth, Black Panther was already prepared, and with Tang Feng watching, even if he was not reconciled, he could only nod his head in agreement. Then, with the help of Tang Feng's roar, Beast Tank, Tony and others led a group of people from the Academy of Sciences to meet with Surui, and everyone got to know each other. Without wasting any time, these scientists followed Surui and went to his laboratory. Out of love for science and curiosity about vibranium technology, they must be eager to go to work today. The army will be arranged by Magneto. Let's go find a place to stay. Tang Feng watched Magneto and Black Panther discuss while arranging the positions of the 100,000 troops to garrison, without expressing opinions indiscriminately, and said to Linger's 3 daughters, "I have made arrangements for the king's residence, which is my original palace. Ako, you lead the way." 99 Black Panther heard Tang Feng's words and quickly said, "Wait, is it your palace? Then there's no need, I don't want to live in your palace, I'll just find a place to live by myself." Tang Feng frowned and waved to stop Ako, who wanted to lead the way. "Just kidding, no matter how good Black Panther's palace is, it's also a place where black people live. And it makes me uncomfortable to think about it." Black Panther was stunned. He didn't expect to let Tang Feng live in the best palace. Not only did he not appreciate it, but he also had a disdainful expression on his face, which showed that he looked down on him. Tang Feng opened the portal and left with Linger and the 3 daughters. Exploring the realm, he quickly found a good place to live. Black Panther's face is very ugly. There is a feeling like a pug wants to please its owner, but it just kicks it, causing his self-esteem to suffer a huge blow. "We continue to negotiate arrangements for the army." Magneto glanced at Black Panther, no matter how bad it was, and proceeded to organize the army. Black Panther nodded silently, like the weak, for Wakanda, no matter how much humiliation he suffered, he could only choose to endure it. Chapter 194 Destroying Leopard God. Tang Feng, Black Panther is the king of Wakanda anyway, and you were too disrespectful to him before. In fact, living in his palace is not a big problem. Tang Feng passed through the portal and brought the 3 girls out. This is a green grass and a beautiful lake scenery. The surroundings are clear to the naked eye, and the slightly smoky wind blows slowly, making people feel relaxed and happy. Blinking his eyes with a frown, the Dao proposed, "Needless to say, I won't live in his palace, and it's quite good here. Our temporary residence is here. Look, as soon as you go out, the color of the lake ripples, fish wander around the lake. There are birds trying to play in the water and catch fish to eat. The grass here is so white and green that we can let us play. When you want to rest, you can also take a small stool and a fishing rod and sit quietly by the lake to fish. We can also have a fishing competition." 99 This kind of life, like living in seclusion in the mountains, is so comfortable, so pleasant and relaxing. Tang Feng spread his hands, his eyes narrowed slightly, and he looked intoxicated. He didn't know if the 3 girls thought so, but he thought so anyway. No matter what kind of luxurious residence, it is more comfortable than the natural environment. Seeing that there were no buildings around, the 3 girls shook their heads and said speechlessly, "Where is the place to live? I definitely have it." Tang Feng opened his eyes and nodded affirmatively. A natural disaster order collapsed, reversing reality, creating something out of nothing, transforming buildings that shouldn't be there and truly presenting them. This is something that disrupts the order of the world, that is, the force that collapses order. With just a light snap of his fingers, a huge change occurred around him. A wooden house covering an area of 300 square meters appeared on the edge of the lake. The wooden house has 2 floors, with a kitchen, a bedroom, a bathroom, and a hall. Although the sparrow is small, it has all the internal organs. In addition, there is a bamboo bridge connecting the wooden house and extending to the center of the lake, where a bamboo house also appeared, with the same specifications as the wooden house, standing quietly on the lake, as if it was originally there. "Is it real? You didn't conjure it?" With a look of surprise on his face, he touched the wooden house, feeling the real touch, and said in surprise, although he knew that Tang Feng's natural disaster, the collapse of order, could reverse reality, this kind of thing out of thin air was too much. "Isn't this kind of ability like creating an ability? You can create whatever you want to create." Linger and Kin also looked astonished. They looked at the wooden house, walked in, and looked at the furnishings inside. "My magic is not that powerful, it is indeed created by the collapse of order. In fact, there is still some difference between the power of natural disasters and the power of creation. It is a power that reverses reality, not a power of creation. Creation is the ability to create something out of nothing and create everything. The collapse of order can only be achieved by reversing reality and collapsing the original order. For example, the wooden house originally did not exist here. Now that it exists, it is the collapse of the world order that can change it. Well, how should I put it? It must be created first and everything in the world before it can be changed with the power of the collapse of order. 35 So, the creation and collapse of order are the relationship between superiors and subordinates. 35 The three girls blinked, and only half understood what they heard. They could only roughly understand it. Merely, they also know Tang Feng's natural disaster power. Not only are there many types, each type of natural disaster is very profound, and they are not reluctant to delve into it. They began to warmly decorate their rooms according to their own preferences. Tang Feng, who was helping, kept opening the portal, helping the three girls carry the luggage from Atlantis one by one. A big move has begun. It is a hassle for the women to move, with the convenience of a portal, and the fact that the wooden house is not very big. It also made them toss around for an hour before the move was finished. Tang Feng saw that the three girls were no less interested and were still discussing how to better decorate the wooden house. He secretly complained, "The matter of women is really troublesome." He didn't think of getting involved, so he sneaked away and went to Suru's laboratory where his Academy of Sciences was temporarily stationed. Wow, God, this concept of vibranium technology is really advanced. I have a feeling that the steel battlesuit will definitely be stronger. 0. Flowers Tony, I want to remind you that upgrading your steel battlesuit is fine, but it shouldn't delay the progress of vibranium technology research. Okay, Hank, don't worry, even if we do it together, I can take care of it. Amazing, this vibranium technology is too advanced. How did you do it? Even if there is a vibranium mine, if there are no talented scientists, it is impossible to use vibranium to develop vibranium technology. In the laboratory, Reed also asked Surui with a sigh, because of the blessing of the Panther God, my Wakanda has always had a shortage of talented scientists, and a genius is born every 1 or 2 generations. Surui raised his face and said proudly. At this moment, Tang Feng walked in. Hearing Suru's words, he based her, the leopard god you have always believed in, is indeed a native god, belongs to the Egyptian god system, has always existed, and has not died. However, if I am not mistaken, the leopard god Buster should have fallen asleep in a battle of gods, so he has not shown himself. You can only use your soul to guide you when your royal family members eat the heart-shaped grass, can communicate with you. Tang Feng's words shocked everyone. If someone else said it, they wouldn't believe it. But what Tang Feng said is different, and the credibility is too great. So our panther god Bast is sleeping? Surui muttered to herself in shock. Her heart tangled. Her belief in the great gods made her unwilling to believe Tang Feng's words. However, her heart was slightly inclined to believe. After all, what Tang Feng said, with the arrogance of an invincible powerhouse, there is absolutely no need to lie. No, our great leopard god is not sleeping, but he just doesn't want to come to the world. It must be because our faith is not enough. Surui shook her head violently. As a loyal believer, she couldn't accept Tang Feng's words, so she deceived herself. It's up to you to believe it or not. It's my guess anyway. 35 Tang Feng shrugged and did not continue speaking. He changed the subject and asked, do you have any general research ideas now? What kind of vibranium technology are you going to study? Spoon. Chapter 195, Preparing for War. The vibranium version of the steel battlesuit, that is Tony's idea. The vibranium version of the robot, that is Reed Richards' idea. The vibranium version of the Sentinel, which was Beast Hank's idea. The vibranium version of the spaceship, that is Shuri's idea. The above are the thoughts that the four of them unconsciously blurted out after hearing Tang Feng's question. Tang Feng nodded after listening, pondered for a while, and supported the idea of the four of them, saying, the time of the arrival of the Zerg annihilation is approaching, in less than 2 months. No matter how much you study, I will before the war comes, I will solve what you call the vibranium technology. It's impossible. Even if I upgrade my steel battlesuit and add vibranium to it, It will take about a month. Tony was shocked on the spot, and Roar shook his head, 967, and said, "It's very difficult. For the design of the vibranium robot, I only have some general ideas. In order to successfully research it, it will not only take a month or two, but also everyone's help." Reed Richards shook his head. "Me too. Although I have been paying attention to Sentinel's research, I have also collected a lot of information. However, in order to integrate vibranium into it and successfully develop it, it will take time and everyone's help." Beast Hank frowned and said with a wry smile, "It's not easy to develop a spacecraft. I'm not talking about a simple spacecraft that can leave the planet, but is equipped with a powerful thermal weapon system, large engine power, and an energy deck. It is a spacecraft that can truly travel and fight in the universe. It also requires everyone to work together to make it possible to achieve it." Surua said seriously, word by word, "Stop, stop. Don't talk to me about difficulties. I believe that no matter what difficulties there are, for you, they can be solved. The four of them are geniuses among geniuses. If they work together to study, the effect must be far beyond everyone's imagination. Come on. I believe you can do it." Tang Feng didn't care about any difficulties, and patted the four people's shoulders with his hands one after another, giving affirmative confidence and words of encouragement, and just left. He didn't care how difficult the process was, he just wanted the result. He didn't believe it at all. The four geniuses gathered together, and there was nothing that couldn't be done. Tang Feng has reason to believe that these difficulties are really nothing. With his ingenuity, even in the face of the true God, it is possible to target the weakness and take it down. From this point of view, if you can defeat the true God, is it also possible to defeat him? Thinking of this question, Tang Feng felt a little uneasy in his heart. In order to prevent accidents, he decided to use the detection field at any time in the future and pay attention to the four talents to prevent them from thinking of bad ideas and secretly attacking him. When the war to annihilate the Zerg is over, it is even more necessary to send the four away as soon as possible and separate them. After thinking about it, it should be sooner rather than later. While returning to the lakeside residence, Tang Feng expanded the exploration field and paid attention to the four of Tony from time to time. Although I didn't hear what the four of them were talking about with bitter faces, I could roughly tell what they were talking about through their lips. If he detects suspicious signals, he can also secretly use the power of time, just like the mirror image effect, to reverse the image of the four of them negotiating and confirm what it is. With double insurance, Tang Feng was relieved. For the next half-month, Wakanda was busy. The 100,000 soldiers plus the 30,000 soldiers that Wakanda had gathered added up to a total of 130,000 soldiers. An army of 130,000, under the command of Magneto, with the help of Black Panther, was stationed in various places. By the way, I also made a big change in Wakanda. There are defensive zones everywhere, deep trenches dug, and fortresses built one by one. Vibranium was added in a frenzy. The hardness is very strong and can definitely withstand artillery bombardment. Smaller nuclear weapons are also not easy to destroy. Tony and other geniuses were also busy. Because of Tang Feng's strong request, he had to study the four projects together. Tony is in charge of the steel battlesuit, and the other three only need to contribute some ideas. Among them, Suru is the most familiar with vibranium technology. His suggestions are not only very helpful, but also greatly accelerate the progress of Tony's modification. Beast Hank is in charge of the vibranium version of Sentinel. During the research process, he encountered problems one by one, but they were all solved by everyone. Facts have proved that Tony, Reed, and Suru, even if they are not experts in genetics, helped Beast Hank with their genius ideas. The vibranium version of the robot that Reed researched is also progressing very quickly. Tony is experienced in steel battlesuits and gave him a lot of valuable advice. Combined with the advice of Shuri and Beast Hank, Reed's development progressed as fast as a rocket. For the first time, she felt that it turned out that the efficiency of people working together was beyond imagination. When researching robots, referring to Tony's artificial intelligence program Jarvis, she also successfully developed an artificial intelligence called Hubby. Suru also sighed the same. Watching the gradually developing spacecraft, She had to admit that she still underestimated the effect of the 4 people working together. Because of the suggestion of Tony and others, in the process of developing the spacecraft, wonderful ideas emerged in her mind, just as the problems that puzzled her in the past were easily solved one by one. Tsurui retracted what he said before. Even if 4 projects are carried out together, 4.7 each person is responsible for one project, and it can definitely be distinguished before the war. Charles, Queen of Darkness, Blink and others are also busy with dizziness and headaches. Hundreds of thousands of troops stationed in Wakanda, but also to turn it into a battlefield, build various fortifications, is bound to cause a lot of trouble. Mutant warriors and Wakandans, constant conflict. If it weren't for the suppression of Black Panther and the appearance of Tang Feng to deter him from time to time, there might have been deaths from bloodshed. Since everyone only focused on Wakanda's side, the management of Atlantis was inevitably negligent. Without Tang Feng and others, it would not have such prestige to manage Atlantis with only some ordinary mutant officials. As long as something unexpected happens, they cannot stabilize the situation. Chapter 196 Rising Tide Organization. Something happened in the country. There was only 1 month left before the arrival of the Annihilation Zerg. On this day, at noon, the sun was shining, the temperature was about 20 degrees, and the breeze was blowing, which was a suitable day for fishing. Therefore, when everyone was busy preparing for war, Tang Feng was lazy and fishing comfortably. The White Queen came over with a solemn expression, and the moment she spoke, it was a serious matter. What can happen in the country? Tang Feng took the hat at the beginning, turned his head back, and asked with a look of surprise. The news that the Annihilation Zerg will arrive in a month has already spread across the internet overnight, which has also caused panic throughout the world. All countries have caused great chaos. Not only have protests increased, but many people are panicking, committing crimes, smashing and smashing. Even if the army is sent to suppress it, it is difficult to suppress this chaos. 5. This kind of chaos has also spread to Atlantis, because we are not in the country, and only those ordinary officials do not have the ability to suppress them. So, chaos has occurred in the country, crime is happening everywhere, and in a single morning, hundreds of people were killed and thousands were injured. The criminal record of mutants is increasing every second. The White Queen took a deep breath and said heavily, I knew that those ordinary officials were unreliable. Regarding the domestic chaos, you should inform everyone so that no one has to worry, and I will go back and deal with it now. 35. Tang Feng shook his head helplessly, stood up, opened the portal, and before entering, he turned his head and asked, how could the arrival of the Zerg Annihilation spread throughout the world overnight? What is the reason? Have you checked? I found it. It was done by a Rising Tide organization. The White Queen said fiercely. Rising Tide organization? Interesting. Go find these people for me and bring them to me. Tang Feng smiled unexpectedly. He knew what the Rising Tide organization was. It was a hacker organization. All of them were master hackers. And he knew that Rising Tide organization was a hacker organization. Tide had a girl named Sky, who was the future superheroine, the Vibe Girl. She has inhuman blood, and when awakening has the ability, she will be able to send out shock waves. After giving the order, Tang Feng returned to Atlantis. The White Queen then left, preparing to capture the members of the Rising Organization. Tide. It's quite messy. Tang Feng was flying high above Atlantis, looking down. With an astonishing view he could see the traffic jam in the disaster city. Many people were shouting in panic, protesting about something. Some were vandalizing, some were causing trouble, some taking the opportunity to do bad things. Just one word: disaster. Have you had enough trouble? If you don't want to die, stop the trouble for this king. 35. This king established Atlantis to protect you, not for you to cause trouble. 55. In the entire disaster city area, through sound magic, Tang Feng's stern words spread far and high into the sky. Hearing Tang Feng's voice, the people who were causing trouble, their faces pale and their bodies frozen, finally calmed down from panic and excitement, and looked up one by one. From now on, I don't care who it is, if anyone causes trouble again, I will find and kill them. Tang Feng slowly landed, stood on the street lamp, looked at the citizens crowded on the street below, and warned coldly. The scene fell silent, and everyone did not dare to look at Tang Feng. All of them seemed very frightened. Although Tang Feng is the king who protects them, he is also a very domineering superior. No one dared to doubt Tang Feng's words, saying that he would kill him and would never be merciless. "King, you won't abandon us, right?" In the silence amidst the crowd, there was a 15 or 16-year-old girl who plucked up her courage and cried out and asked while looking at Tang Feng longingly, "Who said I was going to abandon you?" Tang Feng was stunned. He didn't understand the situation at all about this unexpected question, so he asked, "Yes, it was spread like this on the internet. Everyone is saying that the king and all of you have disappeared. You should abandon us and choose to escape the planet." The little girl replied nervously, Yes, I was right. That's the rumor on the internet, and I know that the king and all of you disappeared, thinking it's true." "Yes, I thought so too." "King, please tell us, is this true?" After the little girl finished speaking, one person began to ask worriedly one after another. Tang Feng shook his head speechlessly and slowly said, "Next, what I said. Everyone recorded it with their mobile phones and then uploaded it to the internet. I'll tell you what the truth is. Up to now, there is nothing to hide. If the truth is not announced and the chaos is not suppressed and pacified, if this continues, we may not wait for the arrival of the annihilation Zerg, and the vitality of human beings will be severely damaged by internal friction." Everyone around, one by one, quickly took out their mobile phones and their cameras turned towards Tang Feng. Some smart people even opened their own live broadcast room and broadcast live on the spot. The number of tourists attracted by Tang Feng's live broadcast is definitely increasing every second. Tang Feng ignored this, facing all the cameras below, and said seriously, "I don't care about the rumors on the internet, I only say one thing, we cannot choose to escape. 5. If you say that I don't avoid fighting and want to run away, do you believe this kind of thing?" Letter. Everyone was silent, and the thought in their minds was the first time they had an answer, so they definitely didn't believe it. Tang Feng is so strong, like a god. Even if the annihilation of the Zerg is terrible, he doesn't completely believe that Tang Feng will run away without a fight. The reason why they panicked and made trouble was because they noticed that Tang Feng was gone, and the giant pillar in their hearts seemed to collapse, so they couldn't calm down. After seeing Tang Feng, their confidence returned, and they finally regained their composure. "I definitely don't believe it. The king will not run away." It was the little girl who spoke first, and she blushed and shouted, "Yeah, I don't think so either." Immediately after, everyone raised their hands and shouted in unison. For a moment, the mixed voice resounded through the sky. Tang Feng smiled, and after a while, he stretched out his hands and pressed down, telling them to stop roars shouts for a moment. Then, as if the stop button had been pressed, everyone stopped shouting roar, calmed down, and continued to listen to Tang Feng's speech. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 197 Generation Z Series Battlesuit Mark 10. The rumors on the internet, except for the rumors of us fleeing, are all false. There is one piece of news that is true, that the Annihilation Zerg will be coming in a month. Therefore, we are all preparing for war, and the countries are also preparing. That is why we are out of the country. After everyone fell silent, Tang Feng explained the situation in a few words. The scene went from quiet to noisy and noisy. After confirming Tang Feng's news that the Annihilation Zerg would invade, everyone panicked and couldn't calm down. "King, are the Annihilation Zerg, as rumored on the internet, a race that looks like a huge insect?" "King, are there really many alien races in the universe? Please tell us, King. Can we humans successfully defend against the Obliteration Zerg?" "King, how terrifying is the Annihilation Zerg?" "King." Hearing the question raised by a shouting person, Tang Feng felt agitated for a moment and shouted angrily, "Shut up for me." At this point, Everyone was shocked and obediently shut up. These questions of yours will have official answers later, so I won't answer you one by one. The only thing I can definitely answer your questions is that with me, I will definitely win. Tang Feng left these firm and confident words behind, opened the portal, and left. For the time being, he returned to the palace of Atlantis. He will keep watch for a few days and wait for the chaos in the country to come. Tang Feng calmed down completely. Prepare for the press conference. Tomorrow at noon, I will clarify some rumors to the outside world to appease everyone's emotions. Tang Feng was soaking in the swimming pool in his swimming trunks, with tea sets and some delicacies placed on the edge, lying on his back leisurely on the cold water, squinting his eyes slightly and instructing, "Yes, King." Standing on the edge of the pool was a female attendant, dressed in a professional attire, a short skirt. The neckline was deliberately wide open. She was wearing silk stockings, and replied in a soft voice. Seeing that Tang Feng never looked over, she left disappointedly. After she left, Tang Feng shook his head speechlessly. He really couldn't help these female attendants. They all had the idea of appreciating spring and wanted to seduce him. Although these flirtatious bastards are indeed very good looking and have a good figure, Tang Feng is not at all tempted by these ordinary women, and at most he glances at them a few times. A woman who can make his heart move, in addition to being beautiful, must also be different. Her eyes are now very discerning. At noon the next day, in front of the palace, Tang Feng faced in numerous interviews. He began to explain the annihilation of the Zerg, as well as his disappearance. Before the end, he firmly said again, he will definitely win. Then, 3 days passed, and the situation in various countries was still a bit chaotic, but Atlantis had recovered calm. Because of Tang Feng's vigilance and his declaration that he will win, the citizens are still worried about the war, but they are willing to choose to believe that Tang Feng will lead them to victory as always. Seeing that the internal situation has stabilized, Tang Feng quietly passed through the portal, left the palace, and returned to Wakanda. As soon as I returned to the lakeside cabin, I looked up and saw a vixen wearing a vibranium-enhanced version of the steel battle suit, flying in the sky, playing some difficulty of flight from time to time. Fall. Tang Feng couldn't get used to it and acted so ostentatiously. Asking him if he had ever done it, he just snapped his fingers and the natural disaster, the Earth's center shift was activated and a strong gravitational force suppressed Tony on the spot, pressing him into the lake. There was a loud sound of water splashing down. The splashing lake water was more than 10 stories high, and the lake surface floated with sand and grit, and Tony sank directly to the bottom of the lake. After a while, Tony flew up from the bottom of the lake and landed beside Tang Feng. "Roar, I'm scared to death. I'm trying out the vibranium version of the steel battle suit. Why are you attacking me?" Tony pulled down his mask and asked with lingering fears. "Nothing. I'm also trying out the battle suit for you." "Well, there isn't any crack, it's pretty solid." Tang Feng pretended to be innocent, looked at the steel battle suit, only seeing a few scratches he nodded in satisfaction. "That's definitely it. With vibranium and my skills, the steel battle suit is already very powerful. Even if it is bombed by a nuclear bomb, it can still survive," Tony explained triumphantly, and he no longer cared about what happened before. He knew that he kept entangling and angering Tang Feng, and he was the one who suffered. "Oh yeah? Then you will wear your battlesuit and test it yourself with a nuclear bomb," Tang Feng said with a smile. Tony's face froze. He laughed. Tang Feng snorted twice, saw that Tony was frightened, and stopped scaring him, and asked, "Your battlesuit is done, so what about the other 3's research projects?" "Reed's Thor mech will arrive soon, and I have been able to take some time to help him and work together to make it, and it can be successfully completed in 3 days at most. Hank's Sentinel still needs more than 10 days. Princess Suru's spaceship is the most troublesome. Even with our help, it will take about a month. We will do our best to accomplish it before the war." Tony thought for a moment and said seriously, "Okay, I know that what you do together will be successful." Tang Feng nodded and said with a smile. In this regard, Tony rolled his eyes and said lightly, "Who suffered for them, only slept a few hours a day, and almost died of exhaustion. It's really a word from the boss." A salaryman will exhaust himself to death. By the way, while there is still time, make as many vibranium steel battlesuits as you can. 9. In this war, you, Iron Man, alone are unlikely to increase the odds. Iron Man needs more, understand? Tang Feng stared into Tony's eyes and explained. Tony was silent. Sending out the iron battlesuit and making more people be Iron Man was really something he found difficult to think about. However, after all, it is Iron Man, Nuo Wangzhou, who will think about the overall situation. He nodded heavily and said, understood. In order to win the war, I will try my best to make the Mark 10Z battlesuit. 99 Mark 10Z? Is that the number you just named? Tang Feng was glad at first that Tony didn't refuse, then blinked and asked in confusion. That's right, the Mark series battlesuit is the number I have always used. This time the modification is exactly 10. Vibranium is represented by Z, so the full name number is Mark 10Z. Tony nodded and said. Tang Feng understood. If he was not mistaken, Mark 10 was the battlesuit of Iron Man 3. Now the function of the 10th generation Mark 10, plus the vibranium technology, it is not clear how strong the destructive power is. At least the defensive performance is very strong. Although I agree to your request, I also have a condition, Tony said seriously. Tang Feng was stunned, nodded and said, tell me, what are the conditions? Chapter 198 Sky and Polaris. Tony flew away, and Tang Feng agreed to his terms with a nod. Just now, the condition Tony put forward is that the steel battlesuit is his personal possession and can contribute to the war. When the war is over, they will all be recycled. In this regard, Tang Feng agreed. He is not a thief, and he has no intention of stealing the steel battlesuit. The first is that his strength is very strong, so strong that he is not afraid of steel battlesuits, and he can destroy all steel battlesuits. Secondly, compared to the steel battlesuit, the vibranium version of Sentinel will not be weak, maybe even more powerful. So with Sentinel, the steel battlesuit is redundant. Next, I settled on a steel battlesuit with Tony, since the Mark 10Z series battlesuit is not easy to make. In addition to the easily obtained vibranium, it also requires a lot of precious materials. Not counting the vibranium, the rest of the materials add up to $10 to $20 million. Moreover, even with detailed blueprints, for complex steel battlesuits, it is not something ordinary people can make. So when Reed, Beast Tank, and Princess Surui were busy with their own affairs and couldn't make a move, Tony had to bring some lab assistants and Jarvis's help to fight in person and try to make many steel battlesuits. The difficulty of making the vibranium version of the 967 steel battlesuit is destined to be only a few dozen pieces at most before the war. Dozens of pieces. It is impossible for ordinary soldiers to use. It is a waste. The candidates Tang Feng considered were Scott, Oralo, and others. These top combat powers, with their 3-level variant strength, coupled with the steel battlesuit, their strength will be greatly increased, and their own safety will also be guaranteed. After all, he was torn apart with the Annihilation Zerg. Considering the huge number of 100 million Zerg, he would definitely be injured if he was not careful. On the other hand, Mutant S ability, unless it is the physical mutation ability, or even Magneto, is just a physically frail old man. So, Magneto, Charles, the Black Queen, also put on the steel battlesuit. Linger, Twinkle, even the White Queen who can turn into a diamond must wear a steel battlesuit. On the Zerg Annihilation battlefield, there is no room for negligence, and Tang Feng is not confident that on the chaotic battlefield, he can always pay attention to his safety. Therefore, they will be safer with the steel battlesuit. Including the Golden Steel Wolf, it is no exception. Although it has adamantium and super speed regeneration ability, the flesh and blood still belong to the mortal body. If all the flesh and blood are removed, even if there is still an adamantium skeleton, it can be restored a little, but it is also announced that it is withdrawing from the war, thus losing its important combat power. In this way, it would be better to ask him to put on the steel battlesuit, plus his original ability, that is, a powerful alliance. As long as the steel battlesuit is not completely destroyed, he will not die if he is allowed to salute. Tang Feng thought about it, shook his head and smiled. The vibranium version of the steel battlesuit, plus Wolverine, is really not easy to kill. Jin, you also have to put on the steel battlesuit. Tang Feng told Linger and the three daughters to get off work first, returned to the wooden house, talked about the steel battlesuit, and asked Keen to put on the battlesuit. Me? I'm already a level 5 mutant. With the strength of the Phoenix, I can protect myself well, so I don't need a battlesuit. Kin pointed at herself in surprise, then shook her head and refused. No, although the Phoenix's strength is strong and has defensive means, any accident can happen on the battlefield, and your body is just an ordinary person. As long as you are stabbed, you will die. In order to prevent this kind of accident, you must wear a battlesuit. This is not a multiple-choice question for you, but my order. You must be obedient. 99. Tang Feng poked Kin's heart with his fingers and said sternly, HMPH, I see, it's really domineering. Kin snorted, turned his face, and said in an unhappy tone, in fact, it's just a hard mouth, but his heart is very sweet. The reason why Tang Feng is so strict is because he cares about her safety, which is definitely sweet. I didn't disturb your good business, right? At this moment, the White Queen arrived, leaned against the door and joked. People who don't know the situation, saw the three girls around Tang Feng, and their fingers were still pointing in front of Yu Qinheng thought, thinking that it was during the day that silver was announced. It's a good thing. Tony's vibranium version of the steel battlesuit has been developed, and I plan to have one for each person. Do you want it? Tang Feng retracted his fingers and said without explaining anything, raising his eyebrows, yes, I definitely want it. The White Queen's eyes lit up and she quickly nodded. With a steel battlesuit, she can better protect her life on the battlefield. Not an idiot. If you want, go and talk to Tony and let him make one for you. And the same goes for everyone else. Tang Feng just snapped his fingers and said. Strangely, the four women on the scene subconsciously looked nervously at Tang Feng's snapped fingers. The atmosphere was inexplicably awkward. What are you looking at? It's just a normal snap of your fingers. Tang Feng lowered his hand and said angrily, who knows if snapping your fingers is normal? Every time you use your power, you are used to snapping your fingers. We are very worried about it now. It's all your fault when you snap your fingers. Linger pouted and said with her hands on her hips. The other three women nodded, standing in the same line. Tang Feng looked at her right hand depressedly. Is that so? By the way, White Queen, what are you doing here to find me? Tang Feng shook his head, stopped thinking about it, changed the subject and asked. The members of the Rising Tide organization have almost been captured, and there are only 2 people left. I want to ask your opinion. Should we continue to arrest them? The White Queen frowned. With Mutant's current power, coupled with the cooperation of various strange abilities and the assistance of Jarvis's artificial intelligence, it is not difficult to find the hackers of the Rising Tide organization. Tide. Tang Feng was shocked and asked, why can't they catch us? Because one of them was related to Magneto. 35. The White Queen lightly brushed the blonde hair hanging beside her face, and explained in a low voice, the remaining 2 are both women, a master hacker named Sky, just an ordinary person, nothing. The other woman's life is not simple. She is Lorna Dane, nicknamed Polaris, not only the 3rd mutant, but also Magneto's daughter. The White Queen's words shocked Linger and the 3 daughters on the spot. The daughter of that evil old man Magneto. The 3 daughters inexplicably thought of a thought. At her current age, is she an old cow eating young grass? Tang Feng was stunned. Polaris? He seems to have heard of it in a previous life. Is it her? Chapter 199. Wanda's training. Don't talk about it with Magneto. Wait until I go and bring her back. Tang Feng heard that it was Polaris, and out of curiosity, he wanted to take action with his own hands. He warned the White Queen, and when he caught Polaris, he would give Magneto a surprise. Okay, Magneto is really not a competent father. I thought that Pietro and Wanda, 2 brothers and sisters, stay by his side and see each other every day, but they don't recognize each other, which is quite pitiful. 99. Unexpectedly, there is a more pitiful daughter, who has been wandering outside all the time. The White Queen shook her head and said sympathetically, it's Magneto's family matter, Let's leave it like this and wait until he brings Polaris back, and then let Magneto meet his 3 children. It's not a problem to go on like this. When the war comes, I'm afraid someone will die, and then there will be no chance to recognize each other again. 35 Tang Feng sighed, thinking that the cruelty of war is unpredictable, and to prevent someone from dying without a chance to recognize their relatives and dying with regret, it is rare for him to show kindness. In any case, Magneto has always worked diligently for Atlantis, and the credit is great. So, he couldn't bear to watch Magneto die alone. Taking this opportunity, not only to make Polaris go back to recognize relatives, but also to let Wanda and Pietro recognize their relatives. After making up his mind, Tang Feng moved to a place before leaving. To the west of Wakanda, on the wide grass, Wanda fought 1,000 soldiers by himself and was undergoing daily training. 1,000 soldiers, mutant and Wakandan fighters, were armed with training guns and bladed weapons. As long as they were careful, no one would die. I saw that on the training ground. Wanda surrounded 1,000 big men and faced attacks from all directions. Her hands glowed with a crimson light, and she kept using the power of chaos to pull the soldiers out. If she gets hit, she uses her power to form a shield that blocks all attacks. Tang Feng watched on the sidelines for a while and nodded in satisfaction. Wanda had already exercised her strength very well. However, the power she can currently use is only level 3, which doesn't match her potential. Wanda's potential is similar to Kin's. She can easily advance to level 5. Even a true god has a chance to catch up. Considering that the obliteration Zerg is approaching, he can no longer let Wanda waste her ability like this. He wants to help Wanda turn her potential into strength. Because time is too short, even if she can't break through to level 5, she has to break through to level 4. Thinking about it, Tang Feng shook his head helplessly. He didn't know Wanda very well, so he never thought of helping her improve her strength. If it weren't for the crisis of the Zerg's annihilation, and the incident with Polaris just reminded her, she might have ignored Wanda. Now she finally thinks of Wanda, and she also considers that Polaris is Magneto's daughter, and using strong means to capture her back will eventually damage each other's harmony. In this way, she wanted to ask Wanda to come forward and persuade Polaris to come back. They are half-sisters and will talk better. Training is temporarily suspended, and all of you go exercise first. After a few minutes or so, Wanda finally noticed Tang Feng's figure, and quickly stopped the soldiers and asked them to exercise first. While walking towards Tang Feng, "King, are you looking for me for something?" 35 Because of the training just now, fighting with 1,000 soldiers and consuming a lot of physical strength, so Wanda was a little tired and asked while wiping away her sweat, "I'm looking for you for something. Go and clean yourself up first." Tang Feng looked at Wanda's sweaty appearance, and also noticed the Snow White you in front of her. Wanda Fei and said with a sigh, "Okay, then ask the king to wait a moment." Wanda also felt a little embarrassed now, nodded, used her strength, soared into the sky, and left quickly. Actually, she is also pretty and has a great figure. Tang Feng looked at Wanda Fei's figure, touched his chin, and said to himself, "Don't get me wrong, it's just a man's sigh when he sees a beautiful woman. It doesn't mean he has any idea." At least now, Tang Feng has a lot of things to do, and women are enough. After waiting for about 10 minutes, Wanda changed into a red suit and flew back. "I found that red suits you best." Tang Feng admired Wanda's outfits and couldn't help but look at her. You hung facing her whiteness. He looked at her and praised her. "Really? Many people say the same thing." Wanda pursed her lips and smiled, in a good mood. Although many people have praised her like this, Tang Feng is a king with different identities. Tang Feng's praise made her even happier. "I came to you to go out and get someone back. She had something to do with you, so I wanted to take you with me." 0. "Ask for flowers," Tang Feng and Wanda said as they walked. "My relative? Who?" Wanda looked stunned and asked strangely. "She is Polaris, also a mutant, named Lorna Dane. According to our investigation, she is also Magneto's daughter. With you, she is my half-sister." Tang Feng stopped and looked directly at Wanda with a serious tone, indicating that it was not a joke. "Do I have a sister?" 9 Wanda was taken aback, her face froze. And she muttered, because she cares too much about Polaris. She ignores him. Why does Tang Feng know about her relationship with Magneto? Zero, is this true? Immediately afterwards, she came back to her senses and hurriedly asked, definitely true. Tang Feng nodded directly, and then explained the words clearly. After listening to Tang Feng's words, it took a while for Wanda to recover. It turned out that she really had a half-sister who, like her, didn't recognize Magneto. It's just that Polaris is worse than her brothers. Not only did she not recognize Magneto, but she has also been living in the world, wandering alone, and I don't know how much she has suffered. Wanda thought, her eyes were, although she had never seen Polaris, because of the same situation and a homeless life more miserable than her own. She was very worried about the sister she had never seen before. Then let's go find her. Wanda definitely agreed to go together and couldn't wait to urge Tang Feng. Okay, let's go now. When you bring Polaris back, your brothers will also meet Magneto. Tang Feng immediately opened the portal and said. Wanda's footsteps paused, her face very complicated. Do you recognize each other? This happened a bit too suddenly. She finally thought of a doubt and asked, how did you know that he and I are father and daughter? Tang Feng turned around and said with a smile, it's not a secret anymore. I know, Linger and the others know it too, the White Queen, the Black Queen, Mystique and the others know it too. Don't think that you and Pietro are hiding much. In fact, as long as you pay attention, you will be aware of your troubles. Chapter 200 Wanda saves my sister. Following Tang Feng out of the portal, Wanda kept thinking about one thing. Since so many people know the true identities of her siblings, does Magneto know? He knows too? Wanda asked in a complicated tone. He should have known. Don't think too much, Magneto, although he can sacrifice all personal interests for his ideals. However, this is the idea before the establishment of Atlantis. Now, he doesn't have to fight for the survival of mutant, and his thoughts will be different. He may feel very guilty about you and feel sorry for you, so he has no face to acknowledge you. Okay, I won't say more about your family matters. When you and Magneto recognize each other, if you have any questions, just ask him yourself. 39 After all, they are father and daughter. Any contradictions and misunderstandings can be made openly and honestly, and 1970 will sit down and discuss it properly. Look, that green-haired girl is your sister. Tang Feng comforted. The place where the two of them appeared was on the roof of a building. He walked to the edge of the roof, stopped, looked at the two shadows below, pointed down and said to Wanda. Wanda was stunned for a moment. She was very worried about Lorna's sister and was not in the mood to care about Magneto's matters. She hurriedly walked forward a few steps and stood beside Tang Feng. The green-haired girl speaking. No, those people are S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, and she is in danger. Before Wanda could look at Lorna carefully, she also noticed that Phil Coulson and a heroic woman led more than 20 agents, armed with modified weapons, and slowly surrounded Lorna and Skye. Seeing this scene, she yelled anxiously, then jumped off the roof, using the power of chaos, and quickly landed. Tang Feng shrugged. He was in no hurry to appear, and just watched the play above. Lorna, Dane and Skye, what your rising organization has done. Tide has affected the stability of society, created a lot of chaos, and killed a lot of people. I now declare in the name of justice that you are under arrest. It is best to be obedient and capture him. Do not resist, or we will not be polite. That is not what Phil Coulson said, but the woman standing next to him shouted. This woman is an 8th-level agent named Melinda, nicknamed Iron Cavalry, and a female agent with legendary experience. She once had to shoot and kill a mutant girl because of an action, so she felt remorse and guilt, and suffered a great blow. She temporarily left the ranks of special operations and devoted herself to behind-the-scenes employee work. After Tang Feng killed Hydra, Nick Fury was short of manpower, so he asked her out again. What the Rising Organization did. Tide also caught Nick Fury's attention. Seeing that Atlantis was arresting people everywhere, he also assigned agents to arrest people. He has always been the forefront of the action of justice. How could he not intervene? I think your words should not be so cruel. It will scare them and may arouse their desperate resistance. Although they are all equipped with a new type of gun, mutant is not easy to deal with. and can persuade her to surrender voluntarily without a fight, so as to avoid casualties. Phil Coulson maintained a gentle smile, leaned his head to Melinda's ear, and whispered a piece of advice. In terms of levels, Phil Coulson has only reached the 7th level, and Melinda is already at the 8th level. Therefore, this mission was led by her, with the assistance of Phil Coulson. I have already spoken very kindly. When they did something so big, I didn't immediately order the fire, but patiently coaxed them to give up their resistance and surrender, which is considered a good attitude. Melinda narrowed her eyes and said coldly to Phil Coulson, "We didn't do anything wrong. We just announced the truth. But you people in power knew that the Oblivion Zerg was coming and had to hide it from us. At that time, when the Annihilation Zerg arrives, if we ordinary people still don't know anything, we will not be reconciled when we die." Sky grabbed the shoulder bag holding the laptop, facing the muzzle aimed at the dark hole. She retorted in fear. Sky is right. We didn't do anything wrong. You shouldn't come to arrest us. Get out of the way. I don't want to hurt you. Lorna Dane raised her hands and looked vigilantly left and right. Her strength was condensing and could be activated at any time. If you don't want to give up, don't blame us for violent arrests. Melinda didn't want to talk any more nonsense. Before she acted, she had already learned of Lorna's ability, so she decisively took out a bomb-like instrument, threw it on the ground and activated it. There was a slight noise, and the instrument was like a flower. It violently burst open, and a kind of waves were impacted, which could temporarily disturb the surrounding magnetic field. In this way, Lorna's power to control the Earth's magnetic field is temporarily eliminated. Unless she has the strength of Magneto, she can forcibly break through the interference of the instrument and successfully use the ability. Unfortunately, with her current strength, it is impossible. What have you done? How did my power fail? Lorna screamed. When Melinda threw the instrument, she was startled to activate the skill, but the reaction was a little late, and she did not control the instrument in advance. As a result, her skill was interrupted by the instrument and temporarily disabled. Catch her. 99 Melinda did not explain, and assigned 2 agents to control Lorna first. Stop. Lorna is a mutant, and according to the laws of Atlantis, you cannot hurt her. 99 Sky saw that Lorna could not use the skill, and although she felt desperate, she bravely stood up and stepped aside from the laws of Atlantis to try to let Lorna escape. As for herself, she knew that there was no chance of escape, unless a miracle happened. Well, we know the laws of Atlantis better than you. 99 mutants are privileged, but that does not mean that they can do evil without scruples. If there is a mutant crime, we can't kill them on the spot, but we can also arrest them. If the resisting mutant is accidentally injured or killed, as long as there is evidence that it was unintentional, we will not arouse the hostility of Atlantis. 4.7 You don't want to be shot through a hole in your body, just be honest. Melinda explained coldly, raised the gun and fired. A laser beam hit their feet, and a small deep hole appeared, which frightened and surprised them. These kinds of weapons that can emit laser beams are all Hydra's heritage, and S.H.I.E.L.D. has also received some of them. The equipment of these agents can also be considered a shotgun replacement. Sky and Lorna swallowed in fear and no longer dared to act trashly. They could only watch as the 2 agents walked over and took out plastic handcuffs to handcuff Lorna. At this moment, a shout came down from the sky. "You stop me!" Wanda fell to the ground, stood guard in front of Lorna and turned to the right with one hand, and the 2 officers who approached were thrown into the air. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.